Awesome. All right. Welcome to Contra Gentiles, Season 4, Episode 9. Second episode while Grant is fucking around over in England. And so for this episode, we have one of our listeners and good, I guess, yeah, good Twitter friend and everything, Joshua Ham. That is your actual name, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Josh Ham.
because I've been on, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 different podcasts,
Yeah.
but I don't really like have any desire to actually like do podcasts. I just like talking to people.
Yeah.
So and I'm completely unwilling to change from my semi-Luddite ways and try to learn all the skills because I know me, right? And
Yeah.
so if I'm going to try to learn something, then that means I have to dive like full autistic into it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to spend a lot of money and I'm going to spend a ridiculous amount of time and I'm going to learn everything I can. And like, I'm going to dive head first. And I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, it used to be like, that was fun and exciting to like learn and develop and grow and everything.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I got a wife and kids. Like, is the juice really worth the squeeze? Trying to learn this thing,
right? Yeah, I'm actually getting to that point right now as well. Yeah, I know what you mean. There is I don't know. Yeah, there comes a point where
it's diminishing returns.
It is, yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. But also I think it's just the way that I kind of view it is I'm entering a stage in my life where I could finally just rest and die. And so I think prior to that, I never really understood the general idea that you're gonna work all your young years and don't have any adventures young, and then just have your adventures when you're like 80 years old and retired. I was like, I'm not gonna enjoy it then, right? Because for me, it's just kind of like I'll be old, I'll be just wanting to sleep.
That's why young men join the army so that they can go and have adventure.
Exactly.
Young
yes.
And healthy.
Yeah.
Before they're tied down is the wrong way, but
you are tied down though in a way. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's just there's a negative connotation that goes with it.
Right. Yeah.
But there's trade-offs in everything.
Of course there is. Yeah.
You can't be the warrior that you could be if you were worried about what's going on back at home.
Yes. Yeah. There's no way.
Just like.
And and so I just remember being young, and I traveled a lot. I did different things. I wanted to learn new skills, and so I just had fun. I would invest hours of time just learning new shit, just on my own, never needing the actual like a certificate or whatever. And so like I was talking to you over the phone the other day. It's like I learned how to run electricity through a home. I never bothered to get a license for it, but my friend has a license for it, and so I was like, yeah, sure, man, I would like to learn. And carpentry work, like I love it. I used to be a little more addicted to it, because I just love building things. There's something about building things with your hands that I find just so, it's just amazing. It's phenomenal. And so like I spent a lot of my younger years just learning shit. And I always told myself when I get like 40 years old, that's when I'm gonna probably just start settling in a job. Because before that would terrify me. If you went to a job and be like, you're going to be here for the next 40 years, I'd be like, fuck no. There's no way that I'm going to want that. So yeah, I covered the reverse.
And there's two reasons for that, right? Like one, it's terrifying because how much you really gonna you're not like learning new skills.
Yeah.
You're sharpening and honing that skill that you have developed.
Yeah.
Right. So it's still growth, but it's not in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that happens when you've traveled a path like you and I have, where you've done a lot of things in a short amount of time, is you reach a point where you no longer require external validation.
Yes, definitely.
Right. And so that changes everything.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, I don't have to prove myself to anybody.
Yeah.
I've got the medals if that was actually a thing I cared about.
Yes.
You've got the kids and you've got the degrees and we have the external validation which really is just a fancy sheepskin or a piece of cloth, and it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
But we know it's like, bitch, I don't have to prove myself to you.
Yeah.
You will take me as I am, accept the value that I provide, or I'll walk and go somewhere where they will.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't need you.
Yeah. And I love that
And as soon
attitude.
as you have that,
It is. Yeah.
it's so
It throws a lot of people off though, because they want you to need them. And it's like I really don't. I could walk out wherever, whenever, and I'm still going to produce wealth. I'm still going to produce money because, for when I look at it, I look at it as if it is their loss. It's like if you don't want to use me for all the skills that I have, it's really their loss. It's no skin off my back because I'm going to be doing less work. But if you want me to do all that work, it's going to require more money, and it's going to require, yes, that's more validation for me is how much money I can actually charge somebody from expertise, because that does say something. Is when somebody's willing to pay you thousands of dollars for your expertise, is like that's something meaningful for me, more so than just Instagram followers or whatever. It's yeah,
the
those things are
money.
amazing.
See, the thing that a lot of people don't understand about money
Yeah.
is what it actually is, right?
Yes.
And what money is, on one level, it's purely dick measuring, which
Yes.
I understand and I'm okay with.
Yeah.
But on another level, what money is it buys you time,
Mhm.
which is the one thing you can't get, right? Like if you're poor and broke,
Yeah.
as some of us may have been in the past.
Oh,
right?
I
It's like,
definitely was.
right. And so there's a cost that's associated with being broke that people don't understand. It's like, okay, well, we can't afford a washer and dryer.
Yeah.
That means we got to go to the laundromat. So that means that what we now do with like a 5-minute going to the washer, throwing shit in, and continuing on with our lives,
Yeah.
instead, it's now like we have to acquire enough clothes that we can make it through a week. And now we're going to devote a Saturday, the full day, to doing laundry. If you're lucky, you got a big enough laundromat that maybe you can get it all done in like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
somebody in your family has to spend 4 hours doing laundry, and so you've traded, and it actually ends up costing more in the long run. But you've traded time because you don't have the money. The
Yeah.
example I give my students, because I teach a diesel class, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what machines do is they give us efficiency. And so there's always a cost that's associated with it, but what they give us is efficiency. And so it's free to go outside with a pair of scissors and cut your lawn. It's just going to take forever.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
costs more money to buy a lawnmower and diesel, and then maybe you have the skills to be able to work it and everything else,
Mhm.
but you can get it done a lot faster. And
Yes.
so
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
time that you buy, that's the value of money, right? Money buys you options and it buys you time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get what you mean.
That's the only value it actually
Mhm.
has,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And
at
like you
least in
said,
my opinion.
like also like what you said in the beginning, it is. I do think that in some way we want our labor to carry on some kind of value, right? And so, I mean, is it some kind of like dick measuring? I guess it is, but it also it gives us I can't even say physical anymore because it's just digital on a computer screen, but it gives us some kind of manifestation of of your labor that we could recognize and say, this is what it's worth, and that I think brings in a lot more real world value, at least when you have gone through a lot of different scenarios in your life, right? When you were looking for a more affirmation of like people who were training you and people who you respected. I think once that's all done and said, it's like what's really the only thing left. It really is kind of what you're able to charge people for your labor. And I think that's why there is some importance to it, and why people do use it as a measurement of their success in at least in terms of their labor within reality. Because obviously I don't think that's a measurement of success in your life as a good person or anything, but it is a certain measurement of your labor. It's like you invested all this time, all this money, all this energy learning these skills, and when somebody is willing to pay you a certain amount of money for it, and you know that at least is something more real than just somebody saying "attaboy, good job." It's like, no, this is
Yeah.
something more substantial. I could do things with this now. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's the number one failure that we see in, like, why is it that and I know, like, you're not conservative necessarily, but like
Mhm.
I grew up as, like, basic patriotic conservative type. Like, I
Yes. Yeah.
wasn't really paying attention, but I was just brought up Southern Baptist. My dad was military. My
Yeah.
grandfather was military. Like, I was just in the milieu, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so, um, you know, there's this concept where it's like, why can't the right wing ever be successful in getting, anything to do with culture? And it's like, well, because right wingers refuse to engage in patronage. They want
Yes. Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
for free.
Yeah.
Like, they say that they value capitalism, but then they won't actually pay for shit. So it's like,
Right. Yeah.
well, then I guess you don't actually value it.
Yeah. I also think it's they're like it's so here's some things, like, if I want to clarify more of my political position, if I can, it's that I think the difficulty I have with certain terminologies like conservative or liberal or whatever is that there's
Mhm.
there's temporal associations with them, and I also think that there's almost a necessity to accept its ideology in complete form. And so when somebody says, they are conservative, they're going to always support these type of candidates and so on and so forth. And so it goes beyond its pragmatic function. And so when I look at politics, I look at it pragmatically. And so if I were ever stupid enough to, like, get into politics, because I really, I work for the state, I do things like that, but I just feel like I would completely hate my life if I actually started running for things, because I just, that's really not my propensity at all. I really dislike it. Not to say that other people that do are stupid, like my friend, the governor of the state. He's a good friend of mine, but but I always tell him every day, I was like, there's no way that I would ever want to do that. It's something that, yeah.
But that's the beauty
Hmm.
of being a skilled individual, is you don't have to.
Right.
Like,
Yes. Yeah.
who wields more? I mean, so first of all, we're studying Mariology.
Yeah.
So we're learning about the Queen Mother,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like, what is she? Like, she has a formal title, but is she the king? No, she's not.
Yeah.
But she still has power. What is that power? It's more of a soft power.
Yeah.
And it's like, and not just that, but even Solomon had counselors and advisors.
Yeah.
And too many people get wrapped up in the crown.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially as relates to secular politics, and actually as relates to church politics as well.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
many people get wrapped up in the crown or in the Pope hat, whatever it's called. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
converting. I'm not there. And but they lose sight of the College of Cardinals. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Who your Pope is going to be has a lot more to do with who the College of Cardinals is than
Oh, yeah.
anything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
But people don't pay attention to that, right? And so it's like,
Yeah.
like we all say these fancy things like, oh, personnel is policy. It's like, okay, so
Yeah.
it'll be the personnel. You don't. The politicians may come and go, faces
Yeah.
change, but the power brokers behind the scenes, those don't change.
Right. Yeah.
If all politicians are for sale, and they are,
Hmm.
then why not just be the person who buys politicians?
Exactly.
Whether
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is with money or whether it is
They're
with
gonna, yeah,
influence,
they're
or
gonna
whether
have
it's
much
with-
more power than the politicians themselves. No, yeah, I completely
Do
agree.
you think politicians write laws?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, they have smart people with doctor's degrees
Yeah,
who write
yeah.
white papers, and then those white papers get given to
Yes,
them.
yeah,
and
yeah.
They go, oh, this looks like a good idea.
Of course,
I
yeah.
totally understand this
Yes.
words that you've said. Oh, yeah, this looks
Yeah,
great.
yeah. No, yeah, and I guess
Just be that guy.
I guess some of the difficulties I have with like the political discussions, that, like, if somebody right now, like in the Republican Party, right, if they want to win, I don't really understand the point in just complaining about how unfair the elections are right now. Is like, if you already know that people are ballot harvesting and doing whatever, then just do it. It's like that's already the game now. It's like if they change the game, okay, bitching about it ain't gonna take you anywhere. So just play the same game and play it better than they do. And yeah.
All you look like is a sore loser.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
all you look like.
Yeah.
Point blank. Like, oh, I didn't win because he was biting me.
Right,
Wrestling match.
yes.
It's like, yeah. Everybody complains when they lose. Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sure it was so unfair. Oh,
Yes, yeah.
he was overweight. Oh,
Yeah.
he had a 6-inch reach on me.
Mhm.
Oh, it's like, we're Americans. You know who we
Yes.
hate more than anything?
Yeah.
Losers.
Yes, yeah.
Fucking hate losers. We love winners.
Yeah.
There's nothing we love more than winning. And the only thing we love more than winning is the underdog winning.
Of course.
Right?
Yes, yeah.
We
That's
like
that's
to
really
see
American.
Rudy, you know, the 4'11", you know, Irish guy or whatever
Yeah,
who's
yeah,
out
yeah.
there, and he's got the heart, and he's beat, you know,
Yeah.
Rocky is the same thing.
Mhm.
Like, we love the underdog who
Yeah.
just conquers,
Yes, yeah.
you know, over all adversity purely through his determination that he chooses not to lose. Like,
Yeah.
that is the like, if you could distill Americanism down to
Yes,
its
yeah.
really core,
Mm-hmm.
it's that we refuse to give up the common sense.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
we
yeah.
just keep going.
Yeah, and that is something that I do love about the American culture. Like living outside in Europe and everything, that aspect of the culture is what I miss the most about living in the U.S. And it's something that really is ingrained in us as a kid. And there's and I do think it's great because that is what, you know, like. It's just so like when we get, if we ever get to like the discussions, if I do it anyways with people on the left who always complain and bitch about, you know, that there's privilege that certain groups have and everything. I think one of the worst arguments that conservatives ever make is when they want to claim that there is no privilege. I was like, no, that's dumb. Of course there's privilege. I mean, people like to hire
people. It's called winning.
It is, but what the thing is that people like to hire and people like to promote those whom they can relate to the most. That's just the way that ordinary life is. If I lived in Zimbabwe, it would be the same thing. I would have to relate to them the most because that's who they're going to feel comfortable promoting and hiring. And so when I think
in common parlance,
it is, yes,
birds of a feather flock together.
They do, yeah,
right. Like
exactly. And so I hate the bitching of the left when they start complaining that it's just not fair. It's like, of course it's not fair. I don't care that it's not fair. I love that it is not fair because the fact that things are not fair, the fact that things are not equal means that when I am successful, I am better than all of them. And if you're telling me that I am starting way behind in the race because my parents were illegal immigrants, because it's going to be harder for white Americans to relate to me, and I still win, it means that I am not only amazing, I am fucking the best. I am the best of the best. And so I love the fact that it is unequal. I love the fact that equity is not equality that we have. Is that I don't want to start in the same space. If somebody is 6 foot tall and I am my height 5'5", and you know we get into a fight, if I kick the 7 foot tall man, it is like, fuck, I am amazing then, right? I want that inequality because that shows my strength, that shows my ability. And so that's the way I've always looked at it when I was a kid. I was like, I notice these things because when you're a minority, you do notice those things. You know, you work hard and you're like a pendejo and you're like, fuck, I didn't get that the other motherfucker got it. And then you think to yourself, and either you could be bitching about it and complaining and cry about it and then just call the white man evil, or you could better the other white people at their own game. And that's the way that I've always looked at it. And that has led me to greater success.
And the thing about white people in particular is if you're not, you know, a butter soft bitch,
yes,
like if you're hard,
yep,
and you want to win and you're willing to put forth the effort, they'll accept it.
Yes.
Right? Like, will there be more shit tests? Will there be, you know, like racism and will there be, and even then, even like saying racism in America, it's like,
I know
we don't actually have real racism in America.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like we've got we've got like preferences,
Yes.
but nobody that I know who owns a business cares more about the color of the skin
Mhm.
than the color of green.
Yes.
Nobody.
Yes.
Like now, if you had two candidates that were the same, the exact same,
Yeah.
which never happens in the real world.
I know. Right.
But
Right.
if you
But
did,
yeah.
then they might care.
Yep.
Or if one is your son or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Like nepotism is real.
Of
We've
course
never,
it is. Yeah.
you know,
And the things that people,
the older I get, the more I want to get away. Like it
yeah,
used to be, I was like, I want a quality of opportunity, not a quality of outcome.
yeah,
And now I'm like,
no,
I don't even think a quality of opportunity is
exactly.
good.
That's what I'm
Like
saying. No, no,
I think I think
because it,
I think I got
yes,
hornswoggled by MLK, like
I know.
and got
Yes.
indoctrinated into
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
religion, and it's wrong.
It's
It's
like,
all
no,
wrong.
every form of
Mm.
inequality is fantastic. And I love it. And I embrace every moment that I can succeed. I embrace the inequality because it's kind of like, if you want to put it like in a more humorous context, let's say there's a white boy and he goes to a salsa, to a place people dancing salsa. Every Latino there is gonna immediately be like, this guy can't
Automatically
dance.
assume he's
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely
A-
100%.
and if that guy, and if that guy then begins to practice every fucking day and is able to amaze everybody in the salsa, everybody in that room is going to be clapping for that motherfucker. And that is how everyone is. And so rather than bitch about it, rather than these
And
black people and Latinos bitching about it and say like it's not fair, great, then work harder. Of course you're going to have to work harder. It doesn't matter because they have different expectations for you. And so not only fulfill that expectation but surpass it, become greater. And that's really what makes you successful in life. And it's irritating because yes, some white people have the same thing. If they come with a southern accent, people are going to have certain judgments about that person. He wants to work in Washington D.C. talking about, hey boy, how's it going? And people are going to be like, oh, he's probably uneducated white trash. But then he has to surpass our expectations, and it's just normal human behavior. In every scenario that we go into, people are going to have prejudgments on you, and most of the times those prejudgments are correct. And so once you could
or
accept
at
that,
least based upon reality.
and so
At least, even if they're not correct, they're at least based upon reality
yes,
and
but
based upon experience.
yes, yeah, exactly. But when we can accept it in ourselves, we can then overcome those deficiencies. And I've said this to many people. It's like, when you look at countries like Peru, where my entire family is from, right? I mean, I was the first, me and my brothers were the first people born outside of Peru for the longest time besides Spain. And you see the way that the people behave, you see how corrupt the government is, you see the way everybody is, you can normally pinpoint where their flaw is just by observation. And then you can reflect on yourself and be like, okay, I do have those same tendencies. And when we're unwilling to do that, I think that then we are just fulfilling the expectations that the people the low expectations that people have of us. But you have to acknowledge it. When people look at a black guy walking in with saggy pants and untied shoes, walking slowly, he's going to think this is a lazy black man. That's your first instinct, right? Whether you're white or Asian, you're going to look at that person. You're going to be like, okay, that's a lazy black man. He's not coming in here. He didn't dress right. He's not walking correctly. He's not doing anything. And so many times you just have to reflect on yourself and be like, okay, this is my tendency. Maybe I do have a tendency to be lazy. And so what do? You work on that, and and then you get better, and then that's what leads to success. And so like short temperedness that Latinos have, especially Peruvians, like we're horrible at that. There's even a day of grievance in Peru where you punch people on that day. It's like a New Year's Day that you're pissed out the entire year because you just always have this riled up passion. I think it's just genetic. It's like it is there, right? It's there. You're impatient. You just want to go. You can't wait in a line. You got to push people out of the way. But then you learn and then you grow and you accept that expectation, right? And so it's like I don't think that us just explicating the reality of how people behave and different races and different cultures behave is necessarily a racist thing. And then to apply that to people who you meet, I say, of course that's going to be what you do. It's like when you meet like an Anglo-Saxon American as opposed to like an Italian American, you can have different expectations of that person because of their genetic makeup, their region, and your experience of how those people behave. And so, everybody
the
has
culture in the family.
Yes,
and the
exactly.
culture in the family. Like
Because
if
they're all different.
because like one of my buddies here, I just moved to Indiana from Texas,
Yeah.
and one of the guys that I met at church,
Yeah.
like the first time I went to mass, I saw him, and I was like, I went up to talk to him because
Hmm.
he's like 30, early 30s, 32, something like that,
Yeah.
and he's wearing a suit
Yeah.
in mass, and he's wearing work boots, and like his suit isn't like super well fitted or anything else. Like it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
a designer suit. It's a work suit,
Hmm.
like a classic Amish Mennonite style or trad cap,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
work
Yeah. Yeah.
suit type thing. Right. And now I don't know all the intricacies of Catholicism. So like
Hmm.
y'all talk about trad cap, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that. Y'all still talk about seeds, and I'm like, I don't know what that is either. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
care. I'm
Yeah.
not interested.
The
Like I'm
trad cap
actually
isn't that important. The sedes are a little more because they're the ones who deny the Pope. So they're basically heretics. But anyways, but the trads are like basically like normally when people refer to them, they refer to the more early 20th century, late 19th century like American or Anglo Catholics. And that's normally what they mean by trads. There is a specific region. They don't really mean traditional in like France of the 1300s. They mean traditional in that kind of time period between the 1800s to the till before Vatican II. And so that there is a certain
okay.
subculture that they took. But anyways, just to clarify, yeah.
Sure. I think his heritage is either German or Anglo or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I mean, a lot of that's mixed up together, like that
Of course, yeah.
Anglo-Saxon Nordic area,
Yeah.
you know. And so it's like, I go up and talk to him, and it's like, oh, okay, within 30 seconds, I'm like, all right, I'm dealing with a traditional person.
Yeah.
He understands the importance of dress, but he's not like well coiffed, right?
Yeah.
He's in a suit and it fits him, but it's not like fitted
Right. Yeah,
for
yeah,
him.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's a work suit almost, right?
Mhm.
And so you're like, I'm like, okay, I kind of have a feeling for what I'm dealing with. And then I start talking with him, and I get the feeling that he knows what's going on. And so I start asking him questions, and over time we start building a relationship and whatnot. And it's like, that stuff matters. Like the way you dress, the way you appear, the way that you interact with other
Yes,
people,
yeah.
like all of those things matter.
Yeah.
And people don't put enough stock into the cover of their book that they're presenting to the audience that's around them.
Yeah.
And like it matters. It's like I see the way you dress, and I got nothing against it. There's 0% chance I would ever dress like that. That's just not. That's not me. That's not what I would do. However, there's probably not a very great chance that you're going to dress in
plaid. Yeah, yeah. I don't think I've ever owned a plaid thing in my life.
Right. Like I have bunches of plaid. I love it. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's soft. I can work in it if I.
Right.
Like, it's cheap, so if I get engine oil on it or whatever, it doesn't matter. I'll just no big deal.
Yeah.
And so, but I will admit that having listened specifically to you and Jerry for so long, I have realized how much I have elevated performance, or not performance, but utility. How much I've elevated utility over art, and in my entire life, I've never seen the purpose of poetry or like beautiful paintings or whatever. It's like it just never had a pull for me.
Right.
Writing did, like good writing, I like.
Yes.
But like poetry, I never understood poetry because it's like, why are you saying it that way when you can just say what you mean and mean what you say? I don't understand. Which is very Germanic.
Yes. Yeah. But definitely, yeah.
I just don't understand. I'm like, but it's like to me, the thing that is beautiful to me is engineering. right? Like
Yeah.
I love it when things are simple and they work well and they're efficient and
Yes. Yeah.
it doesn't require a lot of maintenance and like
Hmm.
that's the stuff where I'm like, that's beautiful,
Yes. Yeah.
right? It's not a painting necessarily, it's something that's
Yeah.
productive, but that's where I see,
Yes, yeah,
like
yeah, and I do think that that's again just the way that as Latinos and other races are able to observe themselves and know where they excel at and know where they can't really grasp it. I think many people in the Anglo world and the Saxon world are the same way, and a lot of times that's really where the disconnect I think happens. It's like there's for one thing, people don't want to admit it, right? They don't want to admit it to themselves. Like you see people on the left that just says, "No, you just have to accept me the way that I am," rather than them working on them. Says, "No, you know." A lot of times, just recognizing it really is helpful for people. It's like, okay, at least he's honest, right? Yeah, and it's the same thing. I think that when we encounter more of like the Anglo-Saxon world, where utility is in the forefront, many times the way that you viewed it, I heard many times with Americans, right? It's just like they're thinking, why are you saying it that way? Why does this matter? What's the point in having like this poetry? What's the point in studying all this? There's no actual utility to it because you guys experience beauty in utility, right? And that's just the way that you develop. That's the way that you view the world. And I think that's just a reality that many times we just have to admit to ourselves. And it's yeah.
I think that actually goes back to what we talked about earlier in terms of the settler, colonial, adventurer, explorer mindset.
Yes, yeah.
Right? Like if you're constantly looking for new horizons and to spread your wings, so to say, and to show the glory of God and to conquer, the lessers and bring civilization to the savages, like you don't show that through art, right? You show that through engineering.
Well, not necessarily. You do though, because like the Spaniards did. The Spaniards and the French did. The British and the like the Dutch didn't. And so that's why there is a distinction. There's a distinction between the way the Americas like the North America developed compared to South America. And I think a large difference is that one of them taught them more utility, while the Spaniards really didn't. The Spaniards normally taught them more of like the arts, beauty, architecture. Like you go to Peru, you go to many of these places, their cities and towns look like European towns, as opposed you go to the U.S., some of the New England looks very European, but the rest of the nation looks very utilitarian, steel, structured, and cold. Yes, yeah. Right, yeah.
Well, and it's like, okay, maybe what we really need is like some German Catholics.
Oh, of course, yes,
we need a little bit of both.
But they're the ones that keep fucking things up. It's like fucking Germans.
I don't know if we're gonna get some Italian engineers maybe that are also like maybe trying
I don't think the specialties can ever cross. It's just a reality of life. It is where we find God, because when you find God in utility and its simplicity, you can't mix that with finding God within the aesthetics and the complexities. And so it's like to some people can. That's where the whole notion of the Renaissance man came out, is that the Renaissance man was able to find God in everything, right? And so our Renaissance man was a carpenter, an engineer, as well as a sculptor and a poet. And that's where the idea was, is that you're in pursuit of this kind of mythical fantasy man. Like the fully realized man is the man that could find beauty in all those things. And I just don't think that really ever can happen. And I think many times we have to appeal to what is both genetically real as well as culturally real with people. It's just the way that things are. And I think the more that we try to fight it and the more we try to pigeonhole the opposite to that, I think the more struggle that we really present to most people. It's like I'm not going to go to, you're not going to go to a tribe in Africa who really finds beauty in different ways and say, now you must think like a German, It's like that's not really gonna right. That's just not gonna happen. That they're not
You
gonna.
can conquer them.
Yes, you can.
Just
Yes,
fine.
yes, yeah. But they're not going to find
There's
beauty in the same way. You could go to the Italian or to the Spaniard and the Portuguese and the French. They're going to find beauty in a very different way than the Germans, the Dutch, and the Denmark and all of them. Is that they're just developed differently. Their language developed differently. The pragmatic language of the Nordic regions is very similar to Native American tribes. The way they separated the time periods was, this harvest season, it is hunting time, it is, whatever. And so even their language in the days of the week was correlated with that. It wasn't until the Romans took them over where they started using the Nordic gods as days of the week. Because the way the Romans did it was very differently. It's like they manifest days of the week not in terms of what you do, but really in terms of what those days of the week represented. And so then they use gods really to represent those. And this was prior Christianity, this was prior everything. I really do think that there is an intrinsic physiological distinction that happens there. And there's no real way. I think there's a way to get a glimpse, like I said, like being a Latino, being raised in the U.S., like I get a glimpse of it, right? Like I've spent most of my life amongst American white people. And so because of that, like I could see where their virtues are. And so I can utilize their virtues in order for me to become successful. Like one of the greatest virtues that I think Anglo-Saxon white people have really is patience. Because many times when I'm like working in a job and here comes my boss, I'm like, this guy is dumber than fuck. Like, they talk slowly, they move slowly, and it's like this guy's not an intelligent person, and yet he is more successful than I am. And that's really what I looked at. I was like, so why? What was it?
There's a lesson there if you're willing to learn.
Exactly. And then it's like, oh, it's his patience. And so then that's when I think you begin to learn and develop. So I think we could learn things from different cultures and races, but ultimately it would have to be a willful act because it is not intrinsic in us. Like there's no way for me to intrinsically think like a Anglo-Saxon person.
Yeah. And there's I don't understand it when someone's like, oh, well, passion just overtook me. And it's like, the only passion that I ever experience is anger. That's it.
Yes, which I don't.
And, with my wife, right? But that's it.
Yeah.
And generally.
Yeah.
It only overtakes for a very, very short time. And then I reassert control. And I can either choose to keep going down that path.
Yes, yeah.
Or I choose to head it off. But it's like, whatever it is, children may be angry, wife may be angry, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or wife did something that I chose to be angry about, to take more ownership of it.
Yeah.
If you just give me like 2 minutes, I'll calm down and I'll be fine. Right?
Yeah.
That's all it takes. It's just like, all right, let me go smoke a cigarette. And I'll come back, and not only will I be better, but like we can sit down and have a civil conversation.
Yeah.
No issues. And if I start to get heated again, I'll just stand up. That is not what happens in other cultures. They're like, we're about to take this all the way. But this goes back, I think, to the mindset you and I talked about the other day, which is, what's more important, being right, or winning?
Yes,
right? Which one matters more?
Yes,
right? And for me, I care about engineering a solution.
Yeah.
I don't care about being right.
Yeah, you care about winning.
I care about winning.
Yes, yeah.
Right? And so if I can just listen and get her to understand and then maneuver her so that it goes towards that which is going to happen anyways, but it can happen in a peaceful manner, then it's like, well, let's just go with that. Like, I don't need to get emotional about this. And the more emotional I get, the less able I am to logically figure out solutions.
Yes, yeah.
Because I'm more interested in winning.
Yes.
I'm totally fine with being a bad guy. I'm totally fine with, having names called at me and everything else, as long as I'm winning.
Yeah. And I think that's why they're the ones that sacked Rome. And in reality, it's like that's what they cared about. The Romans were getting all fat, It's what's this circus and crackers? They're just enjoying life, and when you go to Europe, you still see that. It's pretty interesting. It's like you spend like a significant amount of time in Italy, and you see like their breaks. Like when I was hanging out with my friend Francesco in Pordenone, which is northern Italy. So the northern Italians have a little bit of mixture with German people and everything, but still, it's like those people were like taking 3 to 4 hour lunch breaks. They would go home, eat pasta. They would have sex, and then they'd go to sleep. And then they wake up again and they go back to work. It was like it was amazing. I was like, wow, like I felt at home in those places because I think genetically that's my grandparents were directly from Spain, and so like I have this weird connection there. And so for me it wasn't weird, but and I think the people notice it. Every area where more like Anglo-Saxon Americans had a rough time because there were other students with me that were from the U.S. I never had a rough time in. So they're like, man, people in Paris were kind of rude to me. I was like, really? To me, they gave me like a room 50% off just because they liked me, And it was like, they took me to the Eiffel Tower for free. Somebody's like, oh, you look like a nice family. Yeah, let's go. And they just like drove me over there for free. And then they drove me back. I was like, wow, I had a fantastic time in Paris. In Italy, it's the same thing. But the places that I didn't have a great time was like the Netherlands or the really hard Dutch side. Like Leuven was the Dutch side in Belgium, but like you go to Antwerp and everything, it's like those people were just dicks to me. I was like, holy shit, these guys. It's weird. It's like you go to these areas, and the more that you travel, you see like an instant reaction with the way people view you, and an instant reaction to the areas in which you feel at home, and then the other people feel at home with you. And other people just didn't have similar experiences to what I did there. But yeah, it's like I get that. Like I understand the 3 hour lunch breaks. I understand the afternoon sex that is kind of required for you to, get up and keep moving. While I think with Anglo-Saxon work is different. It's like it's the utility. It's what can you get done? Why do you need? Why there were things in their head. Why do you need that long of a break? It's like it isn't that you need it, but we don't think in terms of necessity. We're like like a Latino, whether you're French or Italian or Portuguese or from South America, is like there is no such thing as necessity. There's only things that are necessary for a desire, and so you have a desired outcome, and then you could say what is necessary for that, but nothing is necessary in itself. There's always an end goal that you require for the necessity to be a reality. And when I try to explain it to people, it's like it makes it a little bit difficult, but that's really the way that we view everything. So when people say, "Well, why do you need that?" It's like, well, we recognize that we don't need it. There's no necessity for it, but it's amazing. It's like you experience something. You could experience the act of like doing nothing really. It's like you're sitting there, you're eating, and then if you're married, you fuck your wife. If they have girlfriends, they fuck the girlfriends or whatever. And it's like they just do that, and they eat pasta, and then they drink some wine. Like my friend Francesco, like his grandfather had a vineyard, and so he just like poured us some wine and everything, and then you just go. And it was just a very different.
I will say we need to abolish the Protestant anti-drinking workday thing.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
needs to go.
Yes,
That absolutely needs to go.
Yes, yeah.
Because as much as like I could see, it was difficult for me for a while, like because I retired at like 35, right?
Yeah.
Now, granted, the reason I retired at 35 is because I'm 100% disabled through the Army.
Yeah.
Right? Like my knees are jacked up, my back is jacked up, I have headaches all the time.
Yeah.
Traumatic brain injury, blah, blah, blah. Right? But I'm still like, I'm blessed, right?
Of course,
I can walk.
Yeah.
I can still fuck. Like life is beautiful. I'm blessed. But I didn't have to worry about working for money. And so it's like, well, okay, what do I do now? So I went and got my degree, and I realized how much of a how useless most college is.
Yes, yeah.
And then, now I started working, and it's like I'm not taking jobs because I require money. I'm taking jobs to learn skills.
Yeah.
Or to
hone the skills you have and everything. Yeah.
right? And so it's like it's a very, very different methodology than how, because normally I would just be like, all right, well, where do I find the most money? I'm
Yes.
going to go
Yeah.
and make that happen, and I'm going to grind that axe with,
Yeah.
and I'm not doing that. And so it's very weird. It's like, I worked for, I didn't work for a long time. I just spent time at home, and it's like this is abnormal and strange, and
Yeah.
like who just like is at home all day? Like I need to work. Like this
Right. Yeah.
it's a necessity for me that like I need to be productive.
Yeah.
And it's like, aren't you productive with your family? Well, yes, but it's not the same. Like
Right. Yeah.
there's something that's missing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like right now I'm working at the butcher shop, and there's a 15-minute break.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go out and I'll smoke a cigarette, maybe two, and I go back in.
Yeah.
I only take a 15-minute break. There's no clocking in. There's no clocking out. There's nobody that's really gonna sit there and talk shit if you do 20 minutes or whatever. Like maybe if you do 30, they'll come looking for you. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like, hey, we gave you 15 minutes. Do what's right. And that's it.
Yeah.
And that's enough. And it's just like, okay, I'll be right. I'll be back. No problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was funny, I this happened Wednesday, and I was like, I want to talk to Jeremy about this.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, yesterday after we talked. So one of the guys that I work with is like a big, beefy, red jowled, gammon looking guy. You know what I'm talking about, like the North Englander guy.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And like just the epitome of it. And I'm sitting there and cutting meat, and I'm on like week 1 or 2 or whatever. And so like, I don't really know what I'm doing, and I'm just trying to, do what I'm told, right? I get paid to do what I'm told. And so I'm doing it, and he was like, there were only 2 people here yesterday, and they were doing this. I'm like, it wasn't really 2 people. It was me and him. So it's like 1.5 best. I don't know what I'm doing. And he was like, and he looked at me, and like he laid his knife down, and he kind of leaned on the table a little bit, and he looked at me. He's like, son, you ain't got to go searching for a backhanded compliment. You're doing fine. Don't go digging. And I was like, that's not what I was doing. And I thought about it. And I'm like, kind of was.
Yeah.
And like, how much of an act of love is it for this guy that doesn't know me?
You're right.
To just sit there and be and like to give that honest truth like that in that way, most people wouldn't do it. And even those that would, most people couldn't accept it or receive it or see it for what it was.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I was blown away, and I'm like, that's an act of love right there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And most people wouldn't even see it as an act of love for what it was.
Right.
They would think that he was being like a negative Nancy to me, or like, he was being mean or whatever. And it's like, no, like that was beautiful.
Yeah.
And I can never, ever talk to him about that. He may not even known like precisely what he was doing. Like, I don't think it was like,
right. Of course. Yeah.
No, like, he likes his football and he likes his Bears. I'm like, shut up. Right.
Right.
He
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
knew in that moment, he was like, you're doing fine. Stop digging for compliments. Shut up and work.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's beautiful, man. It's fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
And most people wouldn't even see what had just happened in that moment. I didn't see it for a few minutes.
Yeah.
But most people would probably never see it the rest of their life. They would go home that day thinking, man, that guy was an asshole. You're telling me to fucking buck up, bucko. Right?
Right. Yeah.
It's like, But I thought about it. I was like, man, I bet Jeremy would get that one. I bet he would.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. Maybe that's an Anglo thing. I don't, because that's like, I don't think that's how a med would handle that situation.
Right. Yes. Yeah. There's. I mean, it might be a similar message, but the way that it is said will be definitely very different. And I think that that's what a lot of times, they could share in the truth, but the way it is manifested, I think, is what we begin to really see many of the distinctions. And I don't know, like I think a lot of it, you know, I think many people experience this. Like there's this one guy that I know. He was so he's a Black American, but his father was in the military, and so he
Mhm.
actually was born, I believe, in Germany, and then
Okay.
grew up mostly in Europe.
Mhm.
And so he similarly has a very I don't know. I think when you're raised in a very like separated realities between your home life and your life in school or outside of your home, you begin to you cannot help but notice racial realism,
Mhm.
and I think cultural realism, like that, like there are
Mhm.
actual distinctions between races and cultures and the way that people behave. That I think many people in the U.S. who were just raised here and never experienced anything outside. Um, they just don't really get it. Like they begin to think that those kind of comments are just racist, or they think those comments are derogatory. It's like it really isn't. Like
Mhm.
I really don't care about personally people's races besides just understanding the reality of the way they behave. It's like
Mhm.
when you go to the Asian culture, it's the same thing. It's like you have very cold people. You have people that don't really, they take coldness between male companionship to the next level compared to like the Anglo whites. And so it's like when you look at the Latin culture, we're very touchy feely, right? And so
Oh,
when
dude, have you met Middle Easterners?
Middle Easterners are as well, yeah,
Well,
yeah. But then,
and actually,
mhm,
Koreans are relatively
mhm.
like they'll actually like walk hand in hand, young boys will and whatnot, and that's
Yeah.
considered
In
fine.
Peru, my dad said the same thing. It's like they would like walk around with their hands around their waist with each other as friends. Like
Yeah,
it sounds super gay for us, but it's like, yeah, for them it was normal. Um,
yeah.
yes, but I know like what a lot of people when Grant talks to me about like his experience with the Japanese and everything is like it was very different. It's like they have different hierarchical rules. They actually have
Very.
a stricter discipline and separation between the sexes and between man and woman that the most people do. And so it's like
They're more based in reality.
yes. So it's like they for me it's like that's a real thing, right? And so if I'm going to encounter a Japanese person, I'm not going to expect them to be behaving the way somebody from Peru or somebody from the US really to be acting. It's like we all have our own background. We all have our own like both culture and genetics because in the end of the day, you know,
Just nature and nurture,
it
bro.
is,
That's all
yeah,
it costs.
because a culture is made up by biological people.
Mhm.
And so the culture didn't exist prior to human beings. And so it is the genetic makeup that kind of manifested the culture the way that it becomes. And I think just logically speaking, that's just a reality. And so when we look at them, it's like, yeah, that's the way that they were. You could have a deep scientific explanation. Maybe people who were raised in the cold climates, behaved a certain way because survival was different for cold climate people than it was for moderate climate than it was for. I mean, fine. I don't really care necessarily
It
what the
doesn't
explanation is,
matter.
right? But us like expressing that reality, I think is beautiful. And I think us expressing that reality also opens ourselves, if we want to be able to experience what the others experience. Is like because you know simplicity of engineering and pragmatism doesn't come natural for me. I do like to experience the beauty that many of the white Anglos experience with that. I love it. That's why I learned electricity. That's why I learned these things because it's like if you are in some way experiencing the beauty of God through these things, then there is something real there to be learned.
Yeah.
And I think the other way around is the same thing. It's like when you do see like some more Anglo-Saxon white Americans like go to Peru, like when my parents talk about it, and they just want to experience what it's like to like dance in those places or eat their food and everything. They just want to know what it's like to experience God in the way those people do. and it's never going to be organic for any of us, but it is something that we could at least learn and grow. And I think that's a
Yeah,
great thing that we all could do really in the end.
yeah, and that's why, like, yes, birds of a feather flock together. You are most comfortable with
Yeah.
those who look and experience life like you do,
Yep.
right? That's all accurate and true. However,
Hmm.
there is more to life than just that which you know and understand. And
Yes.
so when you're able to, find, your token black guy who's your friend and your token Latino guy who's your
Yeah.
friend, like, and you can then go to a black barbecue and to a Latina quinceañera, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can begin to develop a little bit of, if not understanding, at least appreciation.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, because one of the things that is awful is because America is so damn big,
Yeah.
and because our cultural hegemony is so strong, Americans don't see the culture that we have because they're fish swimming in the river, right?
Mm.
And so they don't recognize that which is good about America, because to them it's just that which is. And it's like,
Yeah.
which isn't to say that there aren't problems with America too. There are,
Mhm.
but you like, there is no light without shadow, right?
Yes,
Like,
yeah.
you cannot understand what is good about America unless you're able to go to other places. And like, I'm
Yeah.
blessed. I spent time in Korea. I spent
Exactly.
time in
Yeah.
Iraq. I spent time in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
I've been in multiple parts of the United States. Well, simultaneously,
Except
I will
Alaska.
throw-
We have to change that. We
Because
got to
Alaska.
fly you up here.
I'm down.
Yeah.
My wife will require me to bring her and kids. At some point. We'll make that happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because she's been trying to convince me for years to go
Yeah.
to Alaska and move out there, and I'm like, baby, but baby, it's cold.
Yeah. Yeah. Just come in the summer. They get convinced, as many people do, and they're like, I'm going to move here. And then you experience the winter after you already made the move.
Well, like I said, I'm lucky in that, like, I used to actually go from Houston to Edmonton, Alberta,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is pretty far north. And
Yeah.
so, like, I've experienced negative 40 degrees
Oof.
Fahrenheit, right?
Yeah.
Like,
That's horrible.
Oh man,
Yeah.
like, you walk outside and you breathe. You can't breathe through your mouth or you'll freeze your teeth. You have to breathe through
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
nose.
Yeah.
And even just breathing through your nose,
Hmm.
like, the moisture from your breath just caused ice to crystallize
Right. Yeah.
around my
Yeah.
beard and everything. And it's like, it's not exactly the most comfortable, but there is
But the nice thing about Alaska,
there's a serenity that comes with that level of cold.
but not only that, Alaska is so big that not all of Alaska is that cold. Like, you have to go up to Fairbanks for that. If you go to Southeast Alaska, it's a literal rainforest. It barely snows. Yeah. And so when you look at the actual map of Alaska, so like I spent a little bit in Sitka and everything,
I
in
know the shape.
Ketchikan, yeah. It's when you start getting lower down there, it's not like this horrendously cold climate where you're constantly frozen, but there is a variety of climates up in the state, and so the most populated area, like Anchorage, is where you're going to find more moderate temperatures. So I like, for example, here in Anchorage, it really doesn't get below zero that often. It might get below 10 at most, but most of the time here you're gonna find it like at 10 degrees, 20 degrees. And so Anchorage really isn't the
And
way
it's
that you get up
funny.
there. Yes, yeah.
But also because you're on the ocean, so you've got the ocean effect there too.
Right, yeah. So it's a little bit lower south. There's the ocean is there, but the more south you go, the less like what you imagine Alaska to be is, and there's plenty of. It's just that it is a huge state, and I think that's something that people just don't really realize is that it's about a third of the size of the country, and so just imagine.
The way I describe it to people is I go,
Yeah.
"Look, guys, you all know that Texas is big.
Yeah.
It's big. Okay. If you cut Alaska in half, Texas becomes the third largest state.
Yes, yeah.
That's how big Alaska
It is. Yes, yeah.
Right.
And so
the way I described.
And so when you bring Alaska down to like the continental U.S., or we call the lower 48s, and you and you just place the size of it, Just think of like the top of Alaska being, like Montana and whatever, and the bottom of Alaska being California. That's how drastic the temperature is going to be from the top of Alaska to the bottom.
Mm,
Is that it's such a huge
right.
state that there's that the Southeast Alaska really is a completely different climate. It's a rainforest. Like you could literally start your own vineyard in Sitka, Alaska, and grow your own grapes because of the lack of snow that you get. And it's just rainforest, and so there's always rain. There's vegetation that looks like
That means
you're
it's
in Oregon.
expensive to live there.
Yes, yeah, it's expensive
Because that's
because
where everybody wants to live.
yeah, yeah. Well, everyone wants to live in Anchorage, unfortunately, but that's just because the Clintons killed the economy in Southeast when they closed the timber industry, and so Bill Clinton really fucked over much of Alaska with that because we produced our own timber there before. Because there's just so much trees and everything that we supplied it even to different states and everything, but then when they closed that down because they're saying that they want to preserve the rainforest, yeah, like Southeast Alaska right now is pretty much dead, and I don't know if there's ever going to really recover from that from since the '90s, unfortunately. Unless somebody starts a different kind of industry, like I really do think if people started like a farming and or vineyard type of industry in Southeast Alaska, it would probably boom again. But when you go there, it looks like it's stagnant from the '90s. Like even the mall looks like it didn't get updated from 1993. Um, yeah, and so
I mean,
it's.
the 90s were amazing.
I know.
Being stuck in the 90s isn't that bad.
Yes, yeah,
Like
yeah.
the 90s were our heydays, man. That was
I
oh, it's
know.
beautiful.
Yeah, I love Southeast Alaska. Like if I could afford, if I could get paid the same amount that I do here and live down there, I would 100% move down to Southeast. It's just more of my type of climate that I just love it. Whenever I have to fly down there with the governor, it's like I just enjoy it. I was like I'm just gonna enjoy this week because I know I'm not gonna get it all the time. But yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm.
So we have completely failed on what our premise was going to be.
Yes, but we got like 30 more minutes. We got 30 minutes. Let's cover the last 30 minutes on what this episode was supposed to be on your conversion.
Yeah.
So let me ask you one question. Like, what was the first, I guess, why did you start investigating Catholicism?
Like there are a lot of firsts that go down that path, right?
Yeah.
So like the first would be like I was raised Southern Baptist, Protestant, obviously. And when I got blown up in Afghanistan and my buddy PFC Zumbo died, Army civilian Diana died, ROC Republic of Korea, a South Korean soldier died, and like 35 Afghanis died. Like a suicide bomber went off right in front of the main gate.
Yeah.
And so and some of those people were women and children, right? And so like it was difficult because I had the classic Grant question, right? Mm-hmm. If God could, why baby die?
Right. Yes. Like, yeah.
And because like what was and really what that came down to was like I am a deeply flawed and troubled person, and I don't know how any loving father could send their 12 14-year-old daughter to hell to be separate from him for eternity. I don't understand.
Yeah,
like that just doesn't compute. I cannot comprehend this.
Yes.
Like that's not loving. There is no in like you can bring that all the way down. I was like, I'll say like 14 because at 14 you definitely know right from wrong, right? Like you let's say that you're an American, so that you at least have a comprehension of what Jesus Christ is.
Yeah.
And just because like it's in the milieu, right? Like so there's no excuse that you've never heard of him. And you're 14, so you have a comprehension of good and evil. Like you actually do grok.
Yes, yeah.
And you've been exposed to Jesus Christ, and you die in a car accident that it's not your fault anyway, blah, blah, blah. and now you're going to be in hell because you didn't accept it. I was like, I can't accept that. Like,
Yes.
my God, that the God that I would worship would have to be a loving God. And nothing about this is loving to me in any way that I can understand. I'm not saying it's not true.
Mhm.
I'm just saying I don't understand it. And I refuse to worship a God that would sentence a 14-year-old girl to an eternity apart from him, to separate his love from her. That's no, I refuse. There must be something else. And so I went and started looking, and I looked at Buddhism, and I looked at, paganism, and all sorts of stuff. Right? And I kept looking because I'm like, I think there's a God, right? Like there's something. Yeah. It's just, what is it? Right? Because it's to me, it's more magical to believe that somehow this all just popped into existence than that there's a divine creator. Right? Like, that's just the most retarded thing to me, is just thinking that somehow we just happen. Yep. That takes way more faith.
It definitely does. Yes. Well, that's how I know that you're actually rational. The fact that you can comprehend that so easily. I mean, I don't mean to stop you, but seriously, it is the entire thesis of Phaser's book, The Last Superstition. That's what it's about. He says, it is more superstitious. Like, the actual superstition is to believe that things came out of nothing. It's like that takes in such an immense amount of faith that it is inherently irrational, that one cannot rationally hold a position that, because if you go back to ancient Greeks, they argued this. The Latin phrase was ex nihilo nihil fit, that out of nothing nothing comes, is the most irrational position that any person could ever take. It's like, no, that really makes no sense. But anyways, you keep going.
Yeah, I mean, the one of the first laws of energy is energy cannot be created or destroyed.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Reality as it exists, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It only changes forms.
Yes.
So in order for reality to exist, something had to create it. There had to be something.
Yes. Yeah.
And that something couldn't just be something that just happens like that. It's the most in a ridiculous concept ever.
No, it is.
And so it was like, and then I became agnostic, where I was like, well, there's a God, but I don't know what he is. I don't know who he is. I don't know. Maybe it's a she. Like, I don't fucking know. I have no concept, and I don't understand. But, like, praise God for reality. Like, thanks. I appreciate it, but I don't know who you are, and I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
And then from there, years later, I had my kids. And so, I don't know, maybe it was like 10 years after I got blown up, right?
Yeah.
And I had my kids, and I was like, okay. At the time, I think I only had one kid, and maybe a couple of my nephews were over, right? I'm like, look, I need to instill my values into my kids, but I can't do it alone, right? Like, me doing it by myself is not enough. And so there's nothing that's in the Bible that's inherently harmful, right? Like, even if you just take it as like a book of good stories and morals, it's still good. Right?
Yes,
like, it's still capital G good, even.
Yes,
right? Like, even if all you're taking from it is just like Grimm's fairy book of Bible.
Yes,
just for how to live morally, still good, still valid. And so I was like, so I'm going to start going to church. Well, no, that's not how it started. It started with, I'm going to take my kids to church, and they're going to go to Sunday school, and I'm not going to go. But I'm at least going to take my kids there because it's Protestants. They've got Sunday school, and they can associate with other kids, and it's fun for them, and blah, 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 right? And at least they're starting to get a little bit of community from people who are not just me on Christian values, right? Because Christian values I just didn't understand Christianity.
Yeah. So I just want to tell you, my client actually just rescheduled for tomorrow, and so we're good for a longer period if you are.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing I brought this close by.
Good. Yes, nice.
You got your black box.
Yep.
All right. So then, after that, a couple of years later, I was taking a philosophy course as a part of my,
Oh wow.
I don't know, finance minor or something.
Yeah.
Right. And you had to take, some sort of liberal arts or whatever. And I was like, well, and the options were like psychology or sociology or philosophy. And I was like, I'm absolutely not taking psychology. That is pure quack work.
Yes, thank you.
Psychology is just
I 100% agree. I piss people off for that statement, but yes.
Sociology is complete bullshit
Yes,
because
yeah.
they've taken, like the concept of macroeconomics and they've
Yeah.
tried to apply science
Mhm,
to it,
mhm.
but it's all horseshit.
Yes,
And
yeah.
so I was like, so I'll go with philosophy because at least like Socrates and
Yeah.
Plato are interesting to me.
Yes,
Like
as
I've read
historical
a little bit
figures,
about
yeah.
them. Yeah, just like as historical figures, as like Western civilization is built upon
Yeah.
the concept of philosophy. Like I'm at least somewhat interested in it, so I'll take it.
Yeah.
And my philosophy course was the professor was a devout Catholic man.
Oh wow.
Like he dressed in black every day. That's what he wore.
Yeah.
He went to mass, and a large part of what we talked about in class was St. Thomas Aquinas.
Oh wow.
He called him the father of what? Like it was Plato, Aristotle, and St. Thomas Aquinas. Like those were the three that we really studied in class.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow. Which college was this?
Oh, it's a junior college, Blinn College.
That's amazing. Like, do you remember his name?
University. Oh, I might have it saved on my phone.
Oh, okay. That is amazing.
I'll look later.
I would love to reach out to him, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was the junior professor and whatnot. And but he taught the course, and in teaching the course, he talked about universal truth, universal beauty, and universal good, and the virtues, right?
Yes, yeah,
what the virtues are, and how they have they are universal, they are not particular.
Yes, yeah.
And so from there, I began to go, okay, wait. If there's universal standards for the reality, and it's not just individual perceptions, that changes everything.
Yeah.
Right? Like my entire understanding of the world was that, like, we created our reality based upon how we perceive them. And it's like, no, your perceptions are flawed and fucked up because you're flawed and fucked up. But reality is perfect. It's just you. And
yes, like, yeah.
That makes way more sense because I know I'm fucked up, right?
Yes,
and,
yeah.
And so from there, he would occasionally like slip in stuff like, because this is true. And he would just like say it like, because this is true. and he would slip in like St. Thomas Aquinas and Catholicism, like just little pieces thrown in there. And I liked him. And so I was like, after I'm done with the semester and I'm not your student anymore, I want to go with you to mass and show me what this is. I've never been Catholic. I don't know anything about this.
Yeah.
But you talked about universal truth, which I understand and get. And you talked about universal good, which I understand and get. And then you talked about universal beauty, and I have no fucking idea what you're talking about.
Yeah,
right? Because, like, how is beauty this thing that matters, right? Like form over function. Like how? That doesn't make sense. And so like I started trying to wrestle with the idea that there is a virtue and a value in beauty. And then from there, I was just like, okay. And so I went with him to mass a couple times, and like I went with him and I followed with him and I learned, just like a couple of things and whatnot. And I was like, this is really weird. But there was something about it where I was just like, I like it. I don't know why,
Yeah.
but there was just something about it where I was like, well, no, I know why, right? Like I'm Army, right? Like, I
Yeah.
like tradition. I
Yeah.
like having those uniform actions that occur, right? Like I like people being in formation, in step. I
Mm-hmm.
like I like a people operating together in harmony, right?
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
like I like order. I
Yes. Yeah.
like order.
Oh, definitely. Yes. Yeah.
you know, that's definitely my anglicized
Yeah.
side. And dramatic.
Yes. Yeah.
Fucking love order. Um, and so and so it's like I see so much here that I don't understand. I don't understand any of this.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't know what's going on, but I can feel that at least there's order.
Yeah.
Right? And I didn't feel that in Christian churches. Like,
Yeah.
there was or Protestant churches, right? Like there's a little bit of like fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, like, I'm a member of good standing in my church. At this point, like I'm actually going to church. I'm getting involved.
Yeah.
I finally actually become a member of the church,
Oh,
and
nice.
I'm actively reacclimating myself into Christianity and actually like trying, and like I talked to the pastor, and I talked to the pastor maybe once every couple months, and one of the times I talked to him before I left, I was like, look, the purpose of church, in my opinion, should be teaching lessons that people need to hear. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
you talk a lot about like Jesus and about abstract ideas and concepts, which are good, and
Yeah.
and I like them. It was like, but honestly, what most people need to know is like stealing is bad. Okay, like
Yeah.
can you
Yeah.
do a series over the 10 Commandments and why that matters and how it's still applicable to modern life? Because I think that would be of more value to more people
Mm-hmm.
than hearing about the Sermon on the Mount for like the 27th time this year,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I'm not trying to be like hostile,
I
but
know.
it's like,
I know what you mean, though. Yeah.
it's like understand who your flock is,
Mm-hmm.
right? In I mean, it's cool that you have these abstract, esoteric principles that you're attempting to teach people.
Yeah.
But that's not where most people are,
Yeah.
right? Like, you can, if you really need to have those conversations, you can have them with me, right?
Yeah.
And I can understand them and I can follow them with you. But 90% of your congregation can't. And so, what are you really preaching to? Like, if you're not giving them directions on how to live their lives, what's the point?
Yeah.
And maybe I'm a bit too harsh about it or whatnot, but anyway, and so at that point, right around that time, it's like 2018, 2019, something like that. So 3 years ago, and then I start going more deeply into philosophy and the concept of truth. And I start really trying to understand it and studying philosophy. And then, I don't know, 2021, somewhere around there,
Yeah.
is when I found Contra Gentiles, and I just went through the entire catalog. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, I'm becoming Catholic
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you have made sufficient arguments in terms of logic that it just makes sense.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
I'm doing it. And I told the family, and I was like, "Oh, we're becoming Catholic." And they're like, "Oh, what does that mean?" I'm like, "Don't worry, you're just gonna do what I tell you to do."
That's beautiful, man. That's a real man right there.
But my wife was like, "Okay, like we're moving in a couple months to Indiana. Can you just wait until we move to Indiana?" And I was like, "Okay, sure."
Yeah.
And I'm sure what she thought that meant was like, "Oh, this phase passed." So we moved to Indiana, and I'm like, "Oh, look, there's the Catholic Church. We're going." And she's like,
Yeah.
because my wife is still antagonistic towards Christianity in general.
Okay.
And Catholicism in specific.
Yeah.
But I have that is both my burden and not my responsibility.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I will attempt to live the best life I can and show her why this matters for her.
Yeah.
but I'm not responsible for changing her heart in any way. That's on God
Yes.
and on
Yeah.
her. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like a dual thing where it's like I'm accountable for making sure that I'm doing what I need to do. Like I really need to learn the rosary and I need to start praying the rosary.
Yeah.
But but at the end of the day, like she has free will. I can't make her do stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I can make my children do stuff. That they are going to mass with me.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
through Catholic Church training and whatnot.
Yeah.
And like I'm talking to local people to see if I can start Catholic school up here.
Oh, that would be amazing. Yeah.
Well, if we go back to the political for just a second,
Mm-hmm.
so many people see that there are problems coming down the pipeline for the future.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so what do you do about it? Right. And my gut reaction is that what needs to be done is that parishes need to be made as strong as possible so they can be ports for the coming storm. Right? They need to be safe places.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean it needs to be done all at one time.
Mm-hmm.
But what that means is like you begin establishing, like you don't need a 2,000 school, 2,000 student school to be a Catholic school or whatever. No. Like start with 6 kids. I don't care. Like
start somewhere. Yes. Yeah.
Just start the process of, we're going to have monthly picnics and we're going to do this and we're going to do that and we're going to build community. One of the things I talked to the local father about, or one of them, we don't have a dedicated priest yet. We're still trying to find one.
Oh, okay.
But one of the things I talked to the father about was like, there's 2,000 years Catholic history.
Yeah.
Are you telling me there's not some kind of Catholic order that we could, utilize? Because the greatest place that I think failure occurs right now is from like 16 to 26.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Where, right. So it's like if we had some kind of order for those kids to go to where they're treated as adults and they're building that community amongst themselves under Catholicism, and they can start to be given more authority and more responsibility and build that community, build those relationships, because relationships is what it's built on.
Yeah.
And we can give them more knowledge about Catholicism so that they are better equipped when they choose whether they're going to be nuns or priests or parents, right?
Yeah.
But they've got a much more deep understanding of Catholicism and the whys of it, right? And so then it equips them to be better parents, because we know that like from 0 to 16, parents bring their kids and they're forced to come. Beautiful,
right. Yes. Right? Yeah.
All right. We know at like 26, they have kids and then they're coming back to Catholic Church because they want their kids to be, have the experience they have. Okay.
Yeah.
So what we need to look at is like 16 to 26. And so if there's some kind of fraternal order or something where we could start to where we could put them in it and keep them in it, and we've got all this heritage and tradition, and we can, like the squires of the Crusaders or whatever, right? Like I don't fucking care what the name is, right? But the concept is you're learning and growing, your pages, you're not full members, or you're members, but you're members in training.
Right.
Yeah. Something. But the concept, right? Like, I think that's needed desperately.
Yeah.
Because that would give them an organization to belong to.
Yes, and I think this is where they need. This is where they
need that.
Former Protestants can be more helpful in. And I've been arguing this for years, is that the one thing that I've noticed about Protestant world is how good they are in having their like teenagers and younger, I guess 20-year-old young adults. I mean, they're young adults as teenagers, anyways, but that they're young adults engaged really within their community.
Hmm.
And there's a lot that stray away. I'm not saying that it's perfect, but I
Oh,
do
of
think
course.
they do a better job really than the Catholics do there. And that's something that we really could learn. The Catholic world can learn from what the Protestants have done there. And
Right, but it needs to be done in the Catholic way,
it
right? Like
yes, yes,
the Protestant way is like, you know, big church revivals and
exactly, yeah,
summer camps and like rock music and like
yeah,
youth pastors with earrings and shit. Like, no,
yes,
and I'm
yeah.
punching people in the nuts. Like, no,
And
right?
the one thing, yes, the one thing that I have noticed, anyways, at least from my pursuit with something like that, because many times that's been my desire within any kind of Catholic community was really having them know not not to lose hope because the traditional Catholic view when you look at many literature, and I know you don't like poetry and stuff, but when you look at many literature and poetry and stuff, everything, hell was
It's not that I don't like it, it's that
yes,
I don't
you don't understand
understand
it,
it,
yes,
and so
it is
it doesn't.
yes.
Yeah,
And so
sorry.
hell was literally synonymous with despair. And so when you have the three theological virtues, you have faith, hope, and love, right?
Mm,
And so the one theological virtue that defines hell the most is the lack of hope. And so
okay.
when you're in absolute despair, and so psychologically, when young people get into their hormonal phase, the things that I think always turns them off about the church is that they fall into a state of despair because
Hmm.
they begin to do things that they know they should not be doing. They either
Hmm.
begin to watch porn, they start fooling around with their girlfriends or their boyfriends, they start doing things that their hormones bring them into. And
Hmm.
there was many young people that I encountered, and so they would come to me and they'd be like, I don't know what to do at this point. Because in their
Well, because all these kids
yes,
think that they're special and unique, and they're
yes.
experiencing problems that have
There
never
is, yes.
and
But
it's like,
the one thing that has
yes,
helped time and time again when I spoken to them was bring into the forefront, and it's gonna sound silly, but I just say to them, that's what confession is for.
mm-hmm,
It's
mm-hmm,
like these people like begin to engage into this kind of vice, and they succumb
mm-hmm,
to it. I was like, yes, but that's the point of confession. When you begin to say my desire for sex is greater than truth itself, that's when you allow pride to overtake all things. If you are going to begin to fuck your girlfriend, or if you're a girl to fuck your boyfriend, the one thing that I think the young Catholics need to hear is like, that's what fucking confession is for. You don't reject truth just because you engage in a certain sin. This sin doesn't just mean automatically, poof, I am no longer Catholic. And it's like, no, that's not what that means. When they were engaging in Thanksgiving feast and they had the pumpkin pie when they're already full from eating too much turkey, that doesn't mean because they want the pumpkin pie now they have to reject Catholicism. It's like, no, go to confession, go there, get
so
the graces.
I have a question for you,
Yeah,
because you have experience in Europe and with South America, right?
yeah,
So I know that like sexual immorality is like this. It's vastly overweighted in American
yes, yeah,
Protestant land, right? What you're describing, is that still a problem in Central South America and Europe in terms of young
hmm,
people getting away from the church
yes, yeah.
due to sexual choices, even though it's not nearly as verboten there as it is here.
Yes, and they do leave, but the difference is the difference really is their attitude towards it. Is for example, I think I explained Jay when Jay and I were talking, it's the same thing. It was that I know many Catholics who were raised Catholic that were from Peru that stopped going to mass. But if you were
Mm-hmm.
to ever ask them, what is a true church? They all would answer the Catholic Church is a true church. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that they cease to partake in the sacrament of the Eucharist. And that's really
Mhm.
what you see. While what you normally see, like in the more Protestant worlds, who have a large Catholic population, like the U.S., is that they begin to deny the truth of the church altogether, and
Mhm.
there is a great distinction there. And so,
Oh yeah, no,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
yeah, definitely.
and so like when the Latin American or the Italian or the Portuguese stop attending mass because they succumb to the sin, they always they always leave open the door for redemption in that eventually they will begin to go to confession again. While I think the cutoff is that there's a difference between that kind of attitude, and many times it's also due to laziness. Like you meet a lot of Latinos that just are so overburdened through work and their family that they stop going to mass. That it's stupid, and I think that
Overburdened.
yeah,
Yes, yes.
overburdened, right?
Right.
I do think that needs to
With
be
just 3 hour
corrected.
siestas.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Typical. Typical
They need to be
trials
corrected
and
in those
tribulations.
worlds. I think the entire Western world is kind of fucked right now, but I think it's for different reasons. But I do think there's a vitriol that you find with American former Catholics when they reach that point where they want to deny the church altogether, as opposed to simply stop receiving the sacrament of the Eucharist. Because in fact, when somebody begins to engage in mortal sin and they no longer receive the Eucharist, they are in greater graces because they recognize that they are not in good standing with the church
Mhm.
in order to receive the Eucharist, as
Mhm.
opposed to simply saying the Eucharist is not true and I no
Mhm.
longer adhere to the teachings of the church altogether. And,
Right.
and I think that's where the separation is.
Right. No, there's a very big difference between stopping attending truth and denying truth. Those are
Yes,
two
yeah,
different things.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what you see in the Latin world when they start engaging in sexual sins is that they just stop attending mass and they stop
Mhm.
going to confession,
Yeah.
and that's
Just
what it is. But
just
yeah,
make prostitution legal, and I think a
yes.
lot of that problem would go away.
Mhm.
But
But yeah,
it's funny
I've
how
noticed in
the more Catholic I become, the more liberal I become in so many ways.
I know, yes, yeah. I know, yeah, that's what we begin to see. I remember there was this meme that was a few years ago. I don't know if I could find it eventually. I might repost it on Twitter or whatever. But where it listed different things, right? It said, you believe that people should believe that marriage is a sacrament between man and woman. It's a
Mhm.
conservative idea. And then below it, he says you believe that prostitution should be legal. It's a liberal idea. And then underneath that, it will give like another conservative idea, and then liberal idea. And then in the end, it says, "What are you, liberal or conservative?" And it says, "Neither. I'm just Catholic." And I do think that's eventually what ends up happening. Is like you see these things as like there's a distinction between licit behavior and moral behavior. Is that I could
Mhm.
very easily say prostitution is an immoral behavior. I have
Yes.
no problem
Yes.
doing that. A
Right.
female is desecrating their body. She should not do that. That is not
Mhm.
something that is the glory of God. That is a
Right.
degradation of the self and the degradation of God. But
But
simultaneously, I would say
that
that
doesn't
should be
necessarily mean it's illegal.
yes. I should
Right.
it's just to say that should still be licit in
All
society because of that.
all of those things could be said about booze and
Everything.
tobacco.
Yes. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. It's like, am I glorifying God when I smoke a cigarette?
It's
No.
like no, no.
Like, have I actually been contemplating getting a fucking pipe because you
Yeah.
talked about how the purpose of your lungs, the what is it, the teleology,
Yeah. The teleology
what
of
word
that.
you
Yeah.
use? The teleology is to breathe air, and if you're breathing smoke, you're actually not performing the proper function of your lungs. So
Yes. Yeah.
just fucking get a pipe.
Yeah.
And I'm like, now I'm fucking considering getting a pipe
Yes.
because what you say makes sense, and I don't like it. And it's like, man.
Or just
The plus
cigars.
side,
Cigars you
the
don't
flip,
inhale either, you know? I think that's the
the plus
reason
side
why
is,
there it is. There
yeah,
it is. Yeah. I think that's why so
hey,
many like Latinos smoke cigars and shit. It's like, yeah, I'm not gonna smoke a cigarette. Just give me the fucking cigar. And yeah,
yeah,
there is that. Yeah, there is a. I think reality, and I think it's just something that we just kind of need to accept. And the more that we begin to deny this reality, I think the young people are begin to be turned off by it. It's like you look at the Catholic world, like there was a story of a
I'm listening. Keep talking.
I forgot which. Oh, I'm sorry. Where you headed out
No,
to?
I said I'm listening. Keep
Oh,
going.
okay,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
refilling my coffee
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and with
So,
good.
so, so there was this story of, I can't remember. So anybody could look it up, but of a certain king of France, and I believe it was around the 13 or 1400s. And this king of France um, began to stop attending mass, and he kind of just stopped practicing Catholicism altogether. And
Mhm.
and it wasn't until I think it was like his second or third mistress, and this particular mistress actually led him back to God. And so she kept telling him, no, you need to begin to attend mass. You need to be back in the graces of God. And so she became like the beloved mistress of this king in France. And she became his favorite. And she actually brought him back to the faith when he was going away from the faith. And then when you read like narratives in the Old Testament where David would kill the person's husband because he wanted to marry her and did all these things, we tend to forget the difference between licitness and morality. Is that we could obviously claim this king of France ought not to have these mistresses, but should it be socially licit? And can good come out of it? Of course. I mean, good can come out of any act of love in which God allows it to exist. Whether it is David who brutally murdered somebody to marry the wife and then become the greatest king within the Jews ever had, or the mistress of a certain king of France, is that good can always come out of any situation. And the more that we begin to deny it, and the more that we begin to not really comprehend what's going on, I do think becomes a turnoff for many young people. Because when they
Yeah.
when they read that, when Grant was before he left to England, he had one final cast with the RCIA, and the teacher there was unable to reconcile the story of David. And this is what I brought to him. I was like, because he said he's always struggled with the story of David, because when you look at the story of David, everything that he has done was in our culture worse than what Solomon did. Right?
That's
Solomon.
because we have a fucked up understanding of
Yes,
we don't have any understanding of hierarchy.
we don't.
That's
Yes.
the problem,
Hmm.
right? Or well, that's a problem, which I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
is the root cause of many other problems. But we don't have
Yeah.
an understanding of hierarchy. But no, I totally understand what you're getting, because quite frankly, like, as horrific
Hmm.
as brain damage is, and as like knowing that more than likely by the time I'm 65, like
Yeah.
I'll probably have Alzheimer's or something. Like
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
like once you get brain damage, like the brain doesn't heal. It's just going to continue to degrade over time. Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I might very well, be drooling by the time I'm 65. Who fucking knows, right?
Yeah.
But like it's there in the back of my mind. I just don't worry about it, because what
Yeah.
the fuck
That's
am I going to do about it? Am I a brain surgeon?
exactly. Yeah.
um,
That's the way I view things many times.
but because as horrific as that event was,
Hmm.
I would not be where I am today. I would not be trying to do the things I'm trying to do. I would not be the man I am if not
Yeah.
for that. And though I have not yet been successful in becoming a saint,
Yeah. Yeah.
which, even the idea of being a saint terrifies
Yeah.
me, right? But like, though I have not yet been successful in helping large swaths of people to discover God, to discover truth, and to more fully accept reality as it is,
Hmm.
I've been, I'm a good husband, and I'm a
Yeah.
good father. And now I'm like working with some kids and trying to teach them at the high school level, and like I'm trying, man.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but and I wouldn't be the person I am. I wouldn't have the stature that I do in the world at large.
Yeah.
I would, because why the fuck would anybody listen to a 38-year-old guy?
Yeah.
like what do you bring to the table? Well, I bring a lot of pain. That's what I bring.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And so that pain enabled me to learn lessons quicker, because the cheat code to life is a shit ton of pain and suffering.
Yes,
Right.
yeah.
Like that's how you accelerate through the learning curve
Yeah.
fast, is by pain and suffering. Right. You learned doing the pain and suffering of school and having rigorous thought. Right. And so you've got your sheepskin for that.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't mean to I don't mean to stop you, but I would say that's part of it. But there are things that
in your life,
yeah, in a podcast, I never really say you know, specifically
the
things.
Of poverty.
But there are things that happen in my life that that I would say in the end probably influenced me the most, more than my education, more than things. There are particular things that happened in my life that made me realize one key truth that I think mattered more than anything else, and that is that I can do everything right. You could be like the best husband, you could be the best worker, you could be the best whatever student, and shit will still hit you. Is that you have zero control over that, and I think that to me, particular things that happened within my life that made me realize I was like, it isn't about me in the end. That you know, when I do these good actions, I should not be expecting a good consequence for me. Like I don't matter in that way. That's for me the greatest lesson that I've learned, because then I'm able to sacrifice myself for the good of truth, for the good of the others, and for the good of my family, for whatever. That it's never for me anymore. It's for the other. That to share in the sacrifice of Christ is to share in the way that he did, where he was allowed himself to be forsaken by the Father altogether. And
so
yeah.
Here's a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, question for you, and then I'll relate that towards something I'm willing to share in terms of, you know, why we have that similar understanding, right?
Yeah.
But the question for you is karma a con?
Yes.
Is karma a con?
100%.
Right? Like we talk about karma, and it's like, oh well, you know, karma will get it. And it's like, no. God's justice is justice.
Yeah.
But God's justice isn't karma.
No.
Right? Like there's no balancing act.
Nothing.
I know evil motherfuckers that are wealthy and powerful.
What?
And
Yes.
to be fair, like I don't think they enjoy their life nearly as much as I do.
Yes, but you do know people that did shitty things in their life and rejoice, and they get so much in life. And I also know people that are so good that just get shat upon constantly.
Yeah.
Whether it's from a particular individual or just life, like getting cancer, getting whatever. It's like, no matter what you do, it should not be, you know, like St. Teresa of Avila said this, you know, are you seeking God through yourself, or are you seeking yourself through God? And it's like, in the end, if you're doing all these good actions because you are expecting a return in the end, you kind of lose the game at that point. If I can call it a game, but in the end of the day, it's like you when Christ died on the cross for you, for me, for all of us, he didn't get something in return.
No.
And
that's the So that's the part that's hardest for me.
Yeah.
The part that's hardest for me is accepting there's nothing I can do.
Nothing.
I cannot earn his love.
Yes.
I cannot work my way towards grace.
Yeah.
There's as fucking horrible as a sinner as I am.
Yep.
There's nothing that I can do.
Yep.
To ameliorate anything that I've done, have done in the past, will do in the future. Like nothing.
Nothing.
It's all nothing.
Yes.
And so I cannot work away my debt.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, can't do it.
Yep.
Fuck.
Nothing.
Oh, it's so
But that for me that was the freeing moment, because then I don't care anymore. It's like I look at myself, it's like, then just fuck it. It's not for me. That everything that I do in my life, and that if in the end I know that I deserve damnation, so God gives me what I earn, then let it be. I don't care. But the one thing I do pray for and the one thing I do work for is everybody whom I have met and I have loved, not them.
Right.
You know, take me, let me suffer, let me pay my debt in eternal damnation, but not them. That is the only thing I care about anymore in this life, because I realize that there's nothing that I can do to merit heaven. There is nothing that I can do to get the consequences in which I believe will be just in terms of my correct actions, because I could do everything fucking right. Everything fucking 100% right. I could be praying the rosary every fucking day. I could wait until marriage to fucking have sex, and you would still be fucking screwed over. You would still have everything that you have loved ripped away from you. And I know that. I know that because it has happened to me. And so, because it is the fact that it has happened to me, I say, fuck it. If I will not get anything out of it, let it be then. Amen. Let it be. But not those others. Not my children, not the people that I love, not them. If I have to suffer hell for them, then let me suffer hell. I just don't care anymore. And that's the way, really, in the end, that I live my life. And
so this will be story time with Uncle Josh, right? And so I'm gonna kind of put a picture on what you're describing in a way that I can describe it, right?
Yeah.
And so story time with me is my first deployment to Afghanistan. It's 0405.
Yeah.
And we're getting rockets and mortars that are incoming every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day, we've got explosions that are occurring. You know, sometimes they're far away, sometimes they're close, right? And like far away and close are, you know, random metrics that change as you get more comfortable with explosions. Right? And so like, but there comes a point in time in which you realize like you have no control.
Yeah.
Like there's no, you don't control the opponent.
Yeah.
You don't control what they're going to do. You don't control how they're going to act. You can be doing everything correctly. You can be wearing your body armor, on alert, doing all the things that are required to be the best soldier.
Yeah.
And you just fucking die.
Yeah.
Because it was your time.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter. You can be the shittiest soldier that ever lived and fucking walk through in your underwear, no problems.
Yes, yeah.
Because it wasn't your time. Like, and so there comes a peace of mind wherein you accept you're a dead man walking.
Yes,
like, you're just waiting on a funeral.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened yet.
Yes, but it will happen.
But it will happen. It's only a matter of time. I mean, people are dying all around you.
Yeah.
You're literally getting bombed every single day. Like it's just a matter of time. Now, miraculously, I'm here.
Yes.
and it is miraculous because like the explosion that went off that killed my buddy, you know, P.S. Zumbo. He was standing directly between me and the blast. If I would have been inches either side, the shrapnel would have hit me and probably killed me.
Yeah.
Like it's the grace of God that I exist today.
Yes, yeah.
And the burden that is, because it's like, okay, I exist through the grace of God. Now, how do I honor that properly?
Yes.
What do I do? Yeah. And the answer is nothing. You can't do anything. It's like, well, what the fuck? Nothing.
Yeah.
No, it can't be nothing. And so, you know, you attempt to derive meaning. You attempt to figure out ways, and you know, and like, you know, it's a part of me where it's like, I need to be the best father and best husband I can be because he died. His baby girls will never know him.
Yeah.
You know, he died when they were still young, and so all they get is a photograph. And it's like, I need to do better for my kids because although he did not intend to be between me and the blast, he still was.
Yeah.
And so I still need to honor that sacrifice. I still need to comport myself in such a way as I would not shame his memory. Because
Yeah.
now my actions are not just a reflection of me, it's now a reflection of him. And then when you realize, and like, I get a little emotional about this because it's kind of fucking emotional, right?
Of course. Yeah.
But that's also true for Jesus Christ. We just don't have that emotional connection, right? Like, he did the exact same thing, except he did it willingly. He did it knowingly.
Yes.
And it's like, if you don't have that emotional connection with Jesus Christ, like, maybe that's on you a little bit, boo. Like,
yes.
Like,
yeah.
have you really thought about what this fucking means?
Yeah.
Like, have you really thought about how God loved you so much that he gave up his only begotten son?
Yes.
Like, it's kind of like, if you're not a dad, like, I cannot explain to you that there is no fucking chance that I would ever sacrifice my child. Like, the fact that Abram was willing to do that before he became Abraham,
yes,
like, that's insanity to me.
Yes, yeah.
I
No, I know what you mean,
hard, but like, there's a 0% chance that if I felt the calling of God, he told me what you need to do is slay your son alive. And it's like, no, fuck you. No.
yes, yeah. My response is just take me instead.
God,
yes.
I'll just kill myself.
Like, yes,
no.
Yeah.
No. Well, and
no, yeah.
It's what's so frustrating is it's like I know how to work. I know how to work hard, and at least in terms of secular, I'm a decent person. Like, I'm still a horrific sinner. Don't get me wrong, but like, compared to most people, I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't beat my wife. I don't beat my children. I'm able to, maintain a job, and I'm
of course,
I'm
a, you provide,
good tax-paying citizen, blah 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 blah, right? And so it's like I'm a decent human being, and it's all ashes. None of it fucking matters at all. And it's
it doesn't. For me. That's the liberating part. It's like then it just doesn't matter, because the less that I could think about me, the less I could think about what I think that I deserve, the better it is for everybody else in my life. Because for them, I want it to be good. For them, I want them to experience the glory of God. I want all of them to enter the kingdom of heaven, and I will do whatever it takes for that to happen. And I resign myself to the reality that what I deserve is not that. I design myself to the reality that if, in the end of the day, what God gives me is what I deserve, then amen, so be it. And if
you and I both are fully willing to take on way more than whatever our allotment is.
Yes.
If it means that our children are able to go free.
100%. Yes.
We love.
Yes.
Like 100%.
Yeah.
Like I'm.
It just doesn't matter to me anymore. It's like I just don't matter anymore. It's like, fine, I don't matter. I don't matter, because like the one verse that I love, where it says, "Those who seek to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will gain eternal life." And it's like, I understand that. It's like you really just stop thinking about that. It's like, no, why do I want to go to mass? It's not because for me. It's because I know that when my kids watch me there in mass praying, they will simply follow. I don't have to argue with them. Nothing. I say, we're just going, and then we go, and they see it, and then if they see me in confession, they go to confession, and they experience all these glory, just the richness that the church gives them, and that's all I really want. And if they themselves have the same calling in which God wants them to forsake themselves for others, then so be it. But to share within that suffering of Christ, to share within that love, that passion that Christ is, which is to negate the self, to understand what it means to be forsaken by God. That's the only thing.
Love. And that's the part that I really didn't understand for a long time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, love, true love, is sacrificial.
Yes.
right? Like once I began to understand that, which I think was due to your show as well,
Hmm.
that's where things started clicking, right? Like 22 soldiers a day commit suicide.
Yeah.
That's the average.
Yeah.
The average is 22 soldiers a day. The reason that number is so high is because when you're in the military, right, not just the army, but the military,
Yeah.
right? Like when you're in the military, you are part of a mission.
Hmm.
You're part of a team. You're working together to accomplish a mission. The thing that you're doing is larger than just yourself. Like you are dedicated toward this cause, right? And your every single cog in the machine is moving towards this goal, right?
Yeah.
And so you are more than just yourself.
Yeah.
You are a piece of the machine, and it's glorious. It's
Yeah.
beautiful because you know that you matter. You're replaceable, right?
Yes.
And that's the thing about the army, right? Like, you're replaceable. Every single person in the army is replaceable,
Yeah.
or the military. Like I say, the army because that's military law, right? Every single person is replaceable, but every single person is important, right?
Hmm.
So it's not necessarily the individual; it's the job. Right?
Yeah.
But that's where Christianity is different. Right?
Hmm.
It's the individual that matters. And one of the reasons why I started looking at Catholicism specifically was because I needed to be a part of a hierarchy. I needed to be a part of the machine. I needed to have purpose.
Yeah.
And purpose greater than just my family. Like maybe that's
Yes.
enough
Yeah.
for my wife. Like, God bless her.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but I'm a man,
Hmm.
and part of what makes men, at least, I hesitate to use the terms like exceptional or anything else, but like
Hmm.
part of what makes manly men masculine
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
is that we want to build legacy, right?
Hmm.
Like we're not content with just existing through life.
Yes.
We want
Yeah.
to build things that will last beyond us.
Yeah.
And but the way it doesn't necessarily have to be my name on it, right? It's just like my values
Hmm.
need to exist beyond me. Like I don't necessarily need recognition. Recognition occurs for great men, and I'm doubt I will
Yes.
be a great man. But at least those values, the heritage, the traditions, the things that matter to me,
Mhm.
that I can impart
That
and
continues.
leave
Yeah.
my mark on the world in some small way.
Yeah.
Right. And the greatest way that happens is, of course, our children. Right. That's
Yeah.
why we have children. But it can also be in the work that we do. It can be in the things that we create. It can be in so many other avenues, right?
Hmm.
And all of those pieces are magnified when you're a part of a machine and when you have that purpose.
Yeah.
And so that's a large part of why I was looking at Catholicism and why I chose Catholicism is because A, I believe it's true,
Yeah.
and B, I know that the greatest that the greatness that is man
Mhm.
is made more manifest when they are a part of a machine that is dedicated towards truth and reality.
Yes.
Right?
Beautiful.
When they are moving in concert and fucking order.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when that's occurring,
Yes. Yeah.
that's when beauty can occur, and that's when greatness can occur, and
Yes.
that's when civilization can change and evolve and become better
Yeah.
and more just, right? And so it's like I want to be a part of that.
Hmm.
I need a mission.
Yes.
I need a
Yeah.
mission. I need something that's beyond just me,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
I am a pitiful sinner.
Yes.
It must be greater than me. Just the glorification of myself is insufficient.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
need more,
Yeah.
and not more in the sense of like wealth or power or
Yes.
no. I need to be directed
Yeah.
towards more.
You need more of that
and I need to
reality.
be advancing the
Yeah.
cause.
Yep.
I need a cause
Yeah.
that I'm advancing.
Yeah. And I think
And I
I
think
100% agree with you. Yeah.
I think a lot of veterans, the reason why you have 22 a day is they go from a life where they have purpose and meaning,
Yeah.
and they move from that into the civilian sector where now they must become their own God and
Yes.
determine
Yeah.
their own reality, and their perception becomes the truth,
Mm-hmm.
and they are unequipped to deal with it in the first place.
Yeah.
And the biggest reason they're unequipped to deal with this is because it's all fucking false. It's not true.
Yeah.
And they've dealt with truth for so long, and then they have to deal with fake, and they don't know how to deal with it.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's no methodology for it. And I think Catholicism could assist a lot of veterans in that way. It's like just keep being a soldier and just change the army.
Yeah.
Go be
Beautiful.
a soldier in
Yeah.
Christ's army.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The church militant. Yep. That's what they call it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, and I think if more soldiers knew that,
Yeah.
and quite honestly, like, without trying to go like,
I think men in general need that too. Yes, because that's just a masculine
100%.
feature. Yeah, men need to know that there's.
Well, and men need Marshall.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Marshall, MARTIA.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Like we need purpose, and we need meaning,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't derive those things purely from children and legacy.
Yes.
Right. Like it also, like, the work we do
Mm-hmm.
is a big part of that. And so, like, just being, a fucking widget clicker isn't
Yes.
sufficient. Like,
Yeah.
your soul just begins to atrophy, right? And so, if you're able to marry widget clicker with being a soldier for Christ, that's where you can actually have that balance.
Yeah.
Where you have meaning and purpose in what you're doing, and you are providing the labor that's required, that is your toil, that is your duty.
Yes.
Right? That's your punishment.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so then you have both.
Yeah.
Right? You can't derive meaning from work alone. And that's where a lot of work ethic fails miserably. But
yeah.
I really do think that, like, if I could just get more veterans to understand, it's like, dude, the Catholic Church calls them soldiers of Christ, and if there were like I said, I'm not trying to get political, because I don't know a lot about Catholicism stuff, right? It's like,
one doesn't need to know.
The Catholic Church would embrace its legacy of, like, yeah, bitch, we were the Crusaders, and
yes,
like,
exactly. I agree with you.
The
yeah,
Knights of Columbus. If the Knights of Columbus were out there, like, parading in dress uniforms with swords, like, we're the Knights of Columbus.
Yes.
You have a problem with it?
Yeah.
We have fucking hierarchy.
Yeah.
Do you want to be a part of something that matters? Come join us.
Like, yes. Yeah.
If they had that chutzpah back, like, I really, and like, I hesitate to try to, to dictate what I think should be done in any sense, in Catholicism, because my role is to shut up and do what I'm told. And I'm fine with that. I really, really am.
Yeah.
But I also think that there's a value in accepting that which is, while simultaneously going, this might be a better way. Yes. Have you considered, instead of trying to change to bring in new people, have you considered just embracing your heritage and your tradition? Yeah. And, like, because that's what people really, really need. Yeah. And I don't think that, I don't know. And that's the real answer, right? Like, I don't know. But, like, looking at Catholicism from halfway out and halfway in, and, like, beginning to enter into Catholicism, I'm like, why the fuck aren't you embracing, like, colonial expansion and conquistadors and crusaders and like, you know, what is it? The death aspect and like
Yes. So yeah,
the
the
martial
skulls,
aspect.
everything.
Like,
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
aren't you?
I know.
Yeah, like
No, I agree with
memento
you.
mori, right? Like
Yes. Yeah.
embrace that
But
because
yes,
that is
and
the thing that separates you most from
yeah, it
Protestantism.
is. And I think this is the beautiful part about Vatican II is that Vatican II is calling for lay people to be more involved that way. And that was that was probably one of the biggest messages of Vatican II. And so you're living in a time period where someone like you can actually make that kind of difference, where you're not in opposition of the church, but you're trying to glorify the church in its own traditions. And that there's movements that people can do where they're creating orders for lay people. Like this is something that many people in different countries were doing and still are doing right now. It's like that's a beautiful thing because it focused on this sense of pastoralism where we shouldn't just leave it up to the priests and the bishops to do it, that as lay people, we can start movements within the church and get the approval of the bishops in the church in order for us to begin to mobilize lay people to be more involved. And I think
Yeah.
that's a good
Well,
thing. Yeah.
And to be fair, like everything that I'm saying here, I've talked to the father about.
Yeah.
You know, I've talked. I'm talking to because there's a hierarchy, right? And so like I'm actively talking to the priest. I'm talking to, or at least one of the regular, and I'm talking to powerful parishioners that are in the auditorium, you know, whose fathers are deacons, and deacons and so on, right? And like, and I'm talking to them, and I'm like, look, I know I'm just going through RCIA, right? Like, I'm a nobody.
Yeah.
That's fine. You don't have to listen. However, I think that this is a thing that would be of value.
Yeah.
And I cannot do this thing on my own because I recognize that hierarchy exists. And so I am asking for guidance on if this is good, how it could be done, how I might be of assistance. What can I do to make this happen?
Yeah.
Because the thing that I had a conversation with my wife this week sometime. Maybe it was last week. Who knows? And she was talking about politics. And I was like, you know, because I just recently started working as a butcher.
Yeah.
And because skills matter, right? And so I was like, you know, I'm enjoying learning how to be a butcher, and I'm enjoying being a teacher part time. You know, these are both good things, and I'm enjoying it. You know, there's frustration and headaches, and
Right.
whatnot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Of course, that's with every job. But I was like, but honestly, like my natural skill set is in communication. I'm really good at talking, and I'm really good at explaining complex ideas in simple ways. Right? It's why I'm a good teacher.
Yeah.
At least why I think I'm a teacher. Because that's a really hard thing to break down a complex.
It is. I agree with you. Yeah.
Into a simple enough idea that people can understand. Right?
Yeah.
And that's engineering 101.
Yeah.
But and I was like, these are complex things, but I'm able to communicate well. And so, you know, if I'm helping out in local politics and whatnot, and they ask me to get involved, and you know, and I run for office, or if I get appointed to some position, you know, it might be beneficial for me to go towards that which is my strong suit. That, you know, the gifts that God has given.
Yeah.
And she's like, that might be true. However, if you were to try to go into some political office, because those are the gifts that God has given you, that means that you cannot share that with your children.
Yeah.
Because if what you care about is being able to develop that family unit with your children, then you're going to need to teach them skills, real skills that matter. If you're a butcher, you can teach your kids to be butchers.
Yeah.
If you're a consultant for a politician, you can't really bring your kids with you and go and do that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's not a thing. And that skill set is so much more difficult rather than the manual skill set of just cutting beef. Like you can be a
Right. Yeah.
retard and do that if you've spent enough time getting tutored and taught, right?
Yeah.
Like anybody can do it. It is a skill set, but like it's a skill set that relative morons can learn,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Given enough time, given enough
Yeah.
patience, right? Like, and so it's like, so what actually matters to you? Is it having power and influence, or is it training your children to be able to learn something and to be able to follow you and to learn the skills that you learn? And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, that's a way of thinking about this that I never thought about before. And it kind of coincided with another thought I had, which was, quite frankly, I don't. All the problems that we have, I don't think are actually political. I think they're spiritual.
Yes. Yeah. I agree with
Right?
you.
Like we're dealing with problems of truth and reality.
Yeah.
Right? Like those aren't actually political problems; they're spiritual problems. They're manifesting as political problems, but the root is spiritual. And so it's like, should I be investing time in politics, or should I be focusing my time on the church?
Yeah.
And investing my time in the church. And maybe what I really, really should be doing is, instead of, going to campaign events and getting known by the local power brokers and, slowly building a base of power where I'm at, should I instead be volunteering with the mission and doing my rosary and just focusing on spiritual warfare? And I'm beginning to think more and more that what I really need to be doing is not politics. It's actually spiritual.
Yeah.
And like what I actually need to do is focus on the church. And if I can get that, I don't know, 80% correct.
Yeah.
Then doors may open that God chooses to open. But like, I'm thinking I need to step away from political stuff altogether and really, really just focus on the church.
Yeah. And you
because
could do
man can only do so many things.
yes. And you just have ability to do so much. I mean, a lot of times you're just starting out slow, like holding a retreat. Many times parish priests lets people do that. And then you show them like the program, what the retreat is. It could be like a camping retreat where you just go out there for like a few days. And then that starts building an order for lay people. And this is something that I think more and more people really do need to get involved in, is that building orders for lay people, because I think many men just need that. And many women need that too. Like there's women that also build orders for lay women. But yeah, but for laymen, they really do require some kind of connection there that they could build with each other so that they can grow within their faith.
Men need brotherhood.
They do, yes.
Men need brotherhood.
Yes.
And is built upon fraternal sacrifice.
Yes.
And it's built upon struggle together for a common goal.
Yes, right? and I think that this is where people from the military have a greater insight than the regular population in the U.S. because we live in such an individualistic society in the U.S. that we don't have a communal reality, where I think many different nations have more communal realities, just always experience that sense of brotherhood. But people in the military have to live communally. Right, they live with each other within the bunkers, within a certain sphere. They fight together, they eat together, they shit together, they piss together. They do all these things in which it builds a sense of what it means to really be human. Because as human beings, we are communal creatures. We're not isolated creatures. The idea of this Protestant world of just being the little house on the prairie outside of everybody, it's like that's not really human. That's nearly anti-human. What the military people experience is more human. When they go to a place and they all shower together, that is a more human behavior because we're social creatures. We're communal creatures. Some of the greatest soldiers of our history always did that, and they continued. The Spartans used to braid each other's hair. Like this is how communal these people lived, and so.
Yes. I was a barber.
Yes,
yeah. Not a great barber, but like I cut the people's hair that were in my squad. I bought a pair of clippers, and I made it a point that I groomed the people that were in my squad.
Yeah. And that there's a human
because we
connection
take
when we
care of
do
each
that.
other.
Yes, you take care of each other. And I think when military people get out of the military, when they go into the world, especially here in the US where everybody just lives separately, it's like that's not
Yeah, the atomization is horrific.
yes, we're not living like human beings in this culture anymore. We're living merely as like ghosts or beasts that we don't we're not
Mm,
accountable for each other anymore. And I think
correct.
building orders of brotherhood would be something that is so important for people. And there's many people that
Mm,
seek it. That's why they go to places like India. That's why they go to these places because just ordinary people are seeking that. They're like, there has to be more to life than me going to this 9 to 5 job in which I barely know my coworkers. And then I just go home and watch porn and masturbate. It's like these people are looking at their life and they're like, there literally has to be more than this because this isolated reality that so many people live, that the technology is making even worse, that people are just on their phones the whole time. They're just looking like this, like for hours at a time. It's like this isolation actually builds more stress. This isolation builds more anxiety. This isolation builds more depression. And then they start seeking other avenues, which fine, they carry truth in themselves, but there's a more fuller truth simply found in the Catholic Church. And what most people do is like, I'm going to pursue Hinduism before I pursue Catholicism. I'm going to pursue Buddhism before I pursue Catholicism. I'm going to pursue paganism. Or like there's this Californian people where they go there and they just take this psychedelic drugs and try to experience God that way. It's like they experience all these other things. And then you realize, no, there's literally an institution that existed for over 2,000 years that already answers all this stuff for you. And that if we could build this sense of brotherhood of men to just go there and be like, we're camping together, we're doing these things together, and having God and Christ as the focus of all this, I think would be more magnificent for everybody just simply to experience, both veterans and just ordinary people stuck in these dead end fucking jobs.
yeah. So the staying in the military is embrace the suck, right? Like
Yeah.
suffering is going to happen.
Yes. Yeah.
It's inevitable.
It is.
It's going to happen.
Yep.
But you can learn to embrace it.
Yes.
You can learn to actually look forward to suffering. You can learn to take you take solace in the fact that you're not suffering alone. You're suffering with your brothers.
Yeah.
And B, you can learn to find the comedy in it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
In the Greek sense, right? Like the funniness that is tragedy.
Yes, yeah.
And so, yeah, like that was like if you listen to veterans,
yeah,
one of the things they'll talk about it's like the things they hate about the army, and then the thing that they'll say that they love about the military is the brotherhood.
Yeah,
right. Like there's all these things that suck, and then there were the people.
Yeah.
Right? And the people are retards. They're dumb. They're stupid. Yes, they're the lowest common denominators in almost every sense in many ways. One of my squad mates was a gangbanger from the Rio Grande Valley. One was a fucking a valley girl, who said like all the time. He was from California, from Bakersfield, like we had like legitimate. I had to have been the highest IQ member on the team. Yeah. They wouldn't have known that because, well, no, they probably didn't know it, and that's why they didn't like me to some extent.
Yeah.
But even then, but we were all in the shared experience together, right? Yeah. And so it didn't matter that the black guy was like, oh, that's racist, and we're like, shut the fuck up, we're all just here together, and it sucks, like just shut up, like nobody cares, man. we're all suffering, so just suffer with us. Like you can bitch about the conditions, you can bitch about the food, you can bitch about whatever you want, but don't bitch about the people, right? Because the people don't have a choice. And so what you're saying makes a lot of sense to me. And so like now I've got to talk to you to figure out how I go about creating this, because that's the thing where I've been trying to reach out to the Catholics that are in the hierarchy because like there's 2,000 years of tradition.
Yeah.
There has to be. I mean, the Knights of Clubs exist.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
wouldn't that be the layperson thing, right? And
That
so
was
it's
that's
like,
one of them,
okay,
but they're also
like
dying out. It's like we need more. We need something different. And I think that
what's wrong? What's wrong with the Knights of Columbus?
nothing. There's
Is
nothing
it
wrong with
just
them. It's
too
just that
ceremonial and not enough badass, or
yeah, I think they're struggling with getting new younger people involved, and I think part of it is just because
Mhm.
things even in the like the priestly world, there's orders that have come and gone. I think a lot of times it's because some of them are very temporal. It's like they're stuck in their time, and it's like sometimes we just have to create something that is not stuck in its time anymore. And I do think that there's different orders that people can develop that can
see?
enrich a lot of young people's lives that's really within there. People in the 30s, but even younger than the 30s or whatever. It's like there are things that we can do. I think obviously the first thing you have to do is fully receive all your sacraments, and then after that is that
It
yes,
has
we can do that.
it has to be two different aspects,
Yeah,
and maybe it's two different orders. I'm not sure, but
yeah.
you have to have two different aspects. You need the squires and you need the knights.
There you
You
go.
need
Yeah,
both,
yeah,
right? Like you need the mentors who like you basically have to recreate the Boy Scouts, but for young
yeah.
men who haven't had any training, right?
Yes, yeah,
And without the shame that would be associated with being called boys.
right. Yeah,
And so it's just like, okay, you're a 20-year-old guy,
yeah.
you know fuck all. Okay, that's
Hmm.
fine. No problem. Like no judgment here. But iron sharpens iron. Do you think iron sharpens iron with soft words?
You're right.
No.
Yeah, yeah,
It requires brutal friction.
yeah,
That's how iron sharpens iron, right? Like
yeah.
because that's how men operate. Women completely different. I don't fucking look. I love women. I don't understand them.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
understand them a little bit enough to know that I don't understand them. Right? Like, I understand
Right.
women
Yeah.
enough to get women.
Yeah.
I don't understand women enough to actually understand women.
Yeah. Yeah.
which is the perfect amount, just so you know. but friction is what is required, and it's like if men aren't insulting each other and just
Yes. Yeah.
joshing each other and just being abrasive towards each other,
Yeah.
then we don't actually like each
Yes, I
other. Right? Like,
agree.
we
Yeah.
don't know each other. We're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
actually dealing with each other.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like you need to develop these concepts and these ideas and whatnot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and you're almost going to need two different orders where you've got the sages, the knights,
Yeah.
those of wisdom
Yeah.
who can then sharpen the young ones.
Yeah.
But the purpose isn't necessarily hazing or anything else. That's just a wonderful side benefit.
Yeah.
It's just that like you don't know, and the only way you can learn is
Yeah.
by suffering.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
how you learn. You learn
Yeah.
by suffering.
Yeah.
And so, is it how glorious is it that we live in a country
Hmm.
where we have to seek out suffering?
Yes. Yeah. I think that's why so many people are like, especially in Alaska, I don't know how it is over there, but in Alaska, so many people like go hiking for hours, if not days. They want to seek suffering. And I think a lot of it just because they don't get it in their daily life, and so they're seeking it, and they're trying to manifest something to make them feel fucking alive, and
That's where you find meaning.
Yes, because we do need
It's
that.
where you find meaning.
Yes, yeah,
You don't. Okay. Hey, Jeremy, I need you to do this really, really complicated spreadsheet.
yeah,
You did it in 30 minutes.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. I guess it wasn't that fucking complicated then. For you, it wasn't. It's like, okay, well, so are you going to sit there and post that spreadsheet as like an ode to your, magnificence?
Yeah.
It wasn't a struggle for you. Right? Whereas, the 20-year-old who just learned PowerPoint, like for him, that's that struggle.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And so it's like, it's only through overcoming adversity,
Yeah.
at least for men. I don't know women, right? But
Yeah, yeah. But for
for
men, that's
men,
definitely true. Yeah.
it, for men, it is in overcoming adversity that you
Yeah.
are able to fully understand what it is to be masculine.
Yeah.
Because that's like the essence, like the superpower
Hmm.
of humanity is our ability to adapt and overcome.
Yeah.
It is our ability to evolve solutions and overcome problems,
Yeah.
right? Like we're a tool using species, right? And all of that is based upon, it's like, oh, there's a fucking problem. All right, let's figure out how to solve
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
You know, that's our superpower.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and
Like,
so it's like,
and it's good. Like
but what do you
the
do when there's no problems? How do
you
you
need
how
you
do
need
you
to
how do you
create it then.
manifest?
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you
So
manifest your humanity
so
if you
so
don't have a
like
problem
the
to overcome?
yes. So like the parish in Wasilla where I live, but I mostly attend to one in because I work out in Anchorage. But anyways, and the parish over there that I know some people that attend, there's a group of lay people that do this retreat every year, where you have to hike through a certain mountain up here in Alaska, which cuts
Mhm.
through. It's a 3-day hike. Like you have to just sleep out in the wilderness for this hike, and then you end up on the other side,
Amazing.
basically. And they all do this, and so then the priest who's from Ireland started just going with them, and it was like it was just lay people who started this. But during this time, they pray the rosary. There's a lot of young people that just get involved. A lot of like fit young
Hmm.
people that aren't just that after this 3-day hike, they're just so much more in tune with everything. It's like a nice reset for the year. And this is what I mean. It's like this is what's awesome that people can really do, that lay people can really do to contribute to the church, that contribute to the youth. Like you were saying, that age group that's 16 to 26 that they all could partake, is that you inflict suffering onto them so that they can begin to have something to overcome, and then they understand masculinity, they understand virtue, they understand bravery, they understand fortitude, they understand aggression, they understand all these things that are built within us that are good inherently, and then we use it for the
Mm.
good, right? And
Yes.
yeah,
Right.
and that's what we need to begin to understand. Like all these people who begin to argue within like the entire like anarchist spheres, like aggression is bad. It's like, if you honestly think aggression is bad, you have not lived life, because aggression is an inherent good that we can pervert for the bad. But when you have aggression for fortitude, it is like you accomplish so much. You can help so much when you have proper aggression within the cardinal
Mm.
virtue of fortitude. And you learn that through
Right.
struggle.
Right. Because, like, you know, I- military, right? It's like,
Yeah.
how you can't, a saying in the military, you can't smoke a quitter, right? And
Mm.
and smoking is a euphemism for uh,
Like destroying or
physically exercise and physically exercise somebody
Mm.
until like literal muscle failure,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So like you're gonna do push-ups until your arms literally cannot move your body anymore,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
right? Because you did something stupid,
Yeah.
right? Because another saying in the military is get smart or get strong. Choose,
Nice. Yeah.
right?
I
Because
like that
if
one.
you do the wrong thing,
Yeah.
we're gonna smoke you, and
Yeah.
you're gonna do extra PT
Yeah.
until your fucking body just won't function
Yes.
properly.
But
Because
I don't
we
mean to
need to plant this in
stop
your
you.
mind.
But I love that. I've never heard that
Yeah,
one.
go
And I've
ahead.
heard a lot of these military ones, but I haven't heard that one. What I like about that so far is that that's also a proper reflection in life. Because if you're like me and you
Mhm.
fucked up a lot in your life, you become so fucking strong. And you have to, because if not, you'll be dead.
Yes.
It's like, no, you fuck up,
Yes.
you do wrong. No, it's either you get smart or you get strong. I love that. I love that. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
especially because it's not saying that one is necessarily better than the other.
Yes, yeah. But it's just a reality.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just a reality. So it's like, okay, you're not that smart. That's fine. We're gonna get you strong.
Yeah.
So that you have the strength to overcome your natural stupidity.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Fine. That's acceptable. We're willing to
Yes.
accept. It's like, you know, if I need to haul ammo cans up a hill,
Yeah.
it's like, well, hey, we got the dumb guy, but he's strong. So
Yes. Yeah.
he can make it happen.
An equivalent.
He's still a contributing member of the
Yes.
team.
Yeah. An equivalent saying in the business world is that the person who has who is the most successful is the one who has failed the most. And it's really for that same thing. It's that the only way that you really become strong, the only way you become successful is by fucking up a shit ton. And that's because you have taken so many risks. You have done so many things that in the end of the day, that does build strength. Because if not, then you'd be dead. In terms of the military, that's what it would be. Is that if you did not build strength while being stupid, you'd be dead, essentially. And in the business world, if you were stupid but never actually got strong, you'd be out of business. You would be nothing at that point. And so the only
you just go bankrupt.
You go bankrupt, right? The only consequence of not becoming strong from your failures really is just absolute death, your demise. You cannot exist the way that you are if you have not become strong through your failures. But yeah, through mistakes, really, that's what it is. And I think the ones who fail the most are the ones who fail to see the virtue in their own failures. Is that when you fail, you have to notice the virtues. The ones who bitch, the ones who complain, the ones who blame others for their failures are like, fuck it. You failed because you suck. And the fact that you suck, just be better then. Just be better. All right. Next time that comes about, be better. Learn from it, be better, become stronger, become more mobile, become more agile, everything. Be fucking better.
Get good, bitch.
Yes. Get good. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That's it. That's all it takes, right?
That's all it is.
And it sounds so simple, and that's where it's difficult. Like that's where it's difficult for intelligent people.
Yeah.
To be able to understand. I didn't understand when I was younger. When I was young, like I went to college at 16. You know, I was valedictorian. Like I was super smart guy. I was far more intelligent than I am now. And that may sound insane to people because I'm sure that I sound intelligent now.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
You know, and I recognize that. I'm very blessed. However, I do have brain damage. I'm not as smart now as I was before. My ability to be able to understand concepts is reduced.
Yeah.
My ability to just be able to learn things, to remember facts, to recite information, like all of those things are diminished.
Yeah.
They're not extinguished, but they're diminished. You know. However, the beautiful thing is that now I have a much better understanding of IQ than most people ever will. Because it used to be when I was younger that I really thought people were just fucking lazy. I really just thought, like, if you bitches just put forward any effort at all, you could learn this shit just like I do. Like, this isn't hard. It's not complicated. You can learn this, like, regardless of what it is. Whether you're talking about, you know, being able to syntax a sentence, or whether it's, you know, basic algebra or, you know, whatever. Like, this shit is not that complicated, right? Now, I've dropped a little bit in IQ, and I'm like, oh no, I fully understand, because the thing about intelligent people is that they assume that other people are about as intelligent as they are. Yeah. You know, plus or minus a few degrees, but it's like if you just put some effort towards it, you would be able to understand. Like, it's a little bit difficult, but you could do it. When the reality is, no, bitch, no. No, they can't. It's just it's intellectually impossible. They do not have the capacity, right? That's it's like asking a fucking one-armed man why he sucks at a two-arm push-up competition.
Right. Yeah.
Bitch, it's because he's got one arm. Like, why are you trying to hold him to the same standard?
Yeah.
He's not less of a person because he has one arm. Like, you don't know the reasons behind it or anything else. But you're fucking bitching at him because he doesn't do as many push-ups as the two-armed guy.
Right.
It's like, man, if you don't shut the fuck up, because you have no comprehension of what you're talking about,
Yeah, what they're
right?
struggling
And
with and
so,
everything. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, because
yeah, you have no.
like with IQ stuff and patterns and everything, I've always excelled at. Like up until my senior year in high school, I literally got 100% in every one of my math classes. Reading, I always
Mhm.
struggled with. Like I talked to you over the phone. It's like I'm just a slow reader. There's
Yeah,
something about my inability to notice sight words. But whenever it came to logical things like mathematics, or ultimately when I learned logic and everything in when I was 15 years old, and geometry and everything, I've always
mhm,
just understood it innately. It's like I see it, I see patterns, I could connect them. And so like when I'm teaching
yeah,
logic to in the university, it's the same thing. It's like for me, I could kind of get it, but I see a lot of students struggle. And then, if through time, especially after college, I realized like no, I'm being stupid by thinking that this is something that organically can be understood by the general populace. It's like they just
it
really
is
can't.
difficult.
Yes, it's difficult,
Yeah,
and so now I'm much more sympathetic. I'm much more able to begin to
well,
teach better, because then it's like I could hopefully kind of comprehend what they're not really grasping. Right.
the thing I would say is I misspoke. It's not just difficult.
Yeah.
For some, it's literally
It's just
impossible.
impossible. I agree with you.
They
Yeah.
just they just don't have the capacity.
They don't. Yeah.
And and part of becoming older and becoming wiser and whatnot is or becoming more loving,
Yeah.
maybe is just becoming is realizing that is not an indication that they are less,
Yes. Yeah.
right? They may have gifts another way, right?
Yep.
And of course, like the easy answer is like, look at our Downies, like the strongest soldiers for Christ,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
we love our Downies, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But like it's more than just that. It's like, that 95 IQ person who
Yeah.
like can like, write a basic sentence or whatever, and it's like,
Yeah.
but they're never gonna grok the
Yeah.
same stuff that you and I are gonna like.
Yeah. They
Like
can.
they may
Yeah.
be able to wire a house.
Yeah.
They may be able to follow directions to wire a house, but
Hmm.
they're never going to understand the theory and the
Behind
concepts
electricity.
of
Yeah.
electricity in the way
Yeah.
that you and I do,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And those are two very different things.
Right. Yeah.
The ability to be able to follow directions is
Yeah.
good and valuable
Yeah.
and should be honored,
Hmm.
right? It's not the same thing as being able to understand
It
how
really isn't.
electricity
Yeah.
functions
Uh,
as a
yeah.
theoretical principle.
And what's
Right?
funny
Like,
is that when I reflect on my own deficiencies, if I do not conceptually comprehend something, I cannot do the following instructions part. I really can't.
Mhm.
And there,
Right.
that is a deficiency on my end, because it's
Mhm.
it's like if I ask the teacher, I need to know the concept behind this, because if not, I cannot just plug and chug. Like I fail
Right.
every math exam if I don't understand why Chebyshev's theorem in what was that in statistics is used as opposed to standard deviation. It's like I need to know
Mhm.
conceptually, why are you using this formula over that one? Because if I don't, I'm just going to keep using the wrong ones over and over again. And because I need to
Right.
conceptualize everything, like it is almost a deficiency, and just following
Mhm.
rules does not work for me. Once I could conceptualize something and understand it, and then I could apply it in any scenario, and I'm fine. Then I'm
Mhm.
great at it. But without that, I'm like, fuck, I don't know. I need to know
And,
why.
and what's funny
Yeah.
is because I used to be that way.
Hmm.
I used to be like that, where
Yeah.
I had to understand the why,
Yeah.
and if I understood the how and I understood the why,
Yeah.
then I would be able to apply the thought process
Whenever. Yeah.
wherever I
Yeah.
needed to go.
Yeah.
No problem, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now it's much more difficult for me to understand the why,
Mm.
and I just have to accept things on it.
Yeah.
And
Which is beauty in itself. Yeah.
it's well, there's beauty in it, but it's also very humbling.
Yes. Yeah.
It's
Yeah. I
very
could see
humbling
that. Yeah.
because it's like I used to be able to sit there and, you know, and to be fair, like it is a struggle, even for intelligent people. Like it's a
Yeah.
struggle to look at, Pythagoras,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
one of the founders of Western philosophy,
Yeah. Yeah.
who also happened to be a mathematician.
Yeah.
It's a struggle to look at him and be able to grasp what he wrestled with and to understand his theorems and ideas.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
And then from there be able to figure out how to do it yourself. It's much easier to just go, okay, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Got it.
Right. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's the easy way. Right. Understanding it is much more difficult.
Yeah.
And now it's like, if I were to attempt to understand it, I might be able to do so.
Yeah.
But it would require a substantial amount of effort.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna fucking memorize the hero.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I need to.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I've got shit to do, and
Yeah.
I don't need to prove myself.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
like, fuck you, because I'm never gonna use this in my life.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not practical. I don't need this.
Yeah.
It's not necessary. And so I'm just going to fucking check the box to go on about it, because like,
Yeah.
does this really matter in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah. 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 Just I guess in terms of
No.
how it exercises the mind or whatever. But yeah, I mean the fact that it is true. But I think other than that, I do know what you mean. It does lack its utility. It's only virtuous within trying to comprehend something in truth itself. And
But
for me, like I said,
comprehending.
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I say, and for me, I'm unable, like physically, the same way that I think some people are unable to be very logical in their principles. I'm unable to do the pragmatic without the conception. It's like I need the conceptualization, or I lack the pragmatism. It's like everything that can be useful from this, I cannot even do that until I comprehend this basic function and idea of what someone is speaking of. And so yeah,
I really do understand that. I do. Like I said, I used to be like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot the other thing I was going to say. So
yeah.
But to try to bring this back to the basic premise that we have, which was conversion. Because I don't know how long, but
yeah.
I'm just fucking I feel like I'm bullshitting with a friend, and it's beautiful, and I love it.
No, it's amazing. Yeah.
I love it. Well, it's especially amazing because you're my fucking age.
Yes.
And it's so very, very difficult. And I'm sure, well, I don't know, but I'm sure it's much the same for you. It's very difficult to find people who've had my similar experiences in terms of living through the 80s and the 90s, experiencing like, just the pop culture as it was.
Yeah.
And so like we have that similar background, although we have our differences of background.
Of course,
like, apartments and cities and whatnot versus, whatever. But it's like, we have the same background in terms of Americana. Right?
Yes, yeah.
And so it's so wonderful to be able to talk to somebody who has that similar Americana background.
Yeah.
While being able to hold intelligent discourse, because I love my blue collar guys.
Yeah.
Them, so.
Me too. Yes. I know what you mean.
Philosophy with them.
Yeah, I know.
I don't talk philosophy.
You just talk about women or whatever. At least for me, it's like, okay, let's talk about who's hot or whatever.
No,
but
I enjoy my conversations with them. We'll talk sports ball or whatever. Like,
yeah.
I don't actually follow any of that stuff because I just don't care.
Yeah.
But like I am. It is sufficient for me to spend time with men who are just present.
Yeah.
Right. Like they're not reaching and striving.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
They're just
yeah.
present.
Yeah.
and there's something beautiful about
There
that,
is. I
you
agree.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
think I was telling you over the
it,
phone yesterday, which is like like the one part that I know I need to work on is my contempt for many academics. Is because I do I have a huge contempt with academics. I spend too many years with them, and most of them are just so stupid, and they've been told too many years how intelligent they are because they have great memorization
mhm,
skills that I that
mhm.
I just like I
They
know
don't know how to think.
they yes, but I know as a Catholic I need to be more I need to be more charitable to them and hopefully
Mm,
engage in a more charitable manner. But many times I just get too annoyed. I get too upset. I could talk to, like I remember right after grad school, like I finished, the two masters, I finished doctoral program. The first thing I did is I wanted to work at a restaurant, kitchen, just to bullshit with people again. I was like, I was done. I was like, I'm
yeah.
done. I just want to bullshit, like, and so when I go to those places, I just get along with everybody. It's like we're cooking. He talks about a waitress's ass, or he talks about whatever. And it's like, I get you. We're just human. We're dudes. We're bullshitting. There's no pretense. You're not trying to prove anything
It's
to me.
beautiful.
We're just being people. We're just being dudes. And I love that.
We're enjoying life in the
Yes.
moment that we're living.
Yes, that's and there's something tremendous about that. But yes, but when I get to the pretentiousness that many of these academics have, and many of these people, it's like I just I start just getting angry again. Like, oh, I almost want to become a beast. I just want to grab them, shake them,
Mm,
just bark at their face, "Rawr," just become a complete animal because I can't stand I can't stand the pretentiousness of the ability to recite quotes of certain philosophers, scientists, poetry, whatever they do, whatever they study, and have this great
oh,
memorization.
they recite
And
they recite them, but they don't
they don't
understand them. They never
understand it
thought
exactly.
about it.
That's the part that still drives
Yes,
me mad. It's like
yes,
you don't even know what the fuck
yes.
you're speaking of. You could just regurgitate every fucking thing like a fucking monkey, but you don't understand what you mean. You didn't take a step back and try to analyze its truth. You didn't question it. You didn't
Mm,
do anything. You like to be viewed as a Nietzschean. You like to be viewed as someone who read Foucault, who is this great open-minded thinker. They like to be somebody. Even many academics who I agree with, are like I just want to be a Thomist, and so they're wearing their tweed jacket with their patched elbows, and they're just
elbow
standing.
patches, yeah.
Yes, and it's like fine, you're reciting what is true, but you're still just regurgitating. Why don't you just take a step back and think? Because I have met people, and people
They
like
don't
you.
do it because it's hard.
Yes, I've met
They don't
people
do it
like
because it's hard.
yes. I met people like you who is not an academic, but who has thought about these truths and has come to it in a rational as well as experiential phenomenological position where they understand the truth intimately. You're not gonna sit there and quote, this is the third article, question 2 of Thomas Aquinas. No, but you understand the truth intrinsically to the point that you don't even need that. And so when I deal with academics, they don't understand. They just don't get it. They think the more that they just consume information, the more that they just read, the more that they can recite and regurgitate, the more intelligent they are. And that's just false. It doesn't make them more intelligent. It makes them more like a computer. They're like they're
They're an
Wikipedia.
AI script writing program.
Right.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that does not equate to intelligence and comprehension. If you could read something and then question it and be like, can I articulate this in my own words to somebody
Mm,
else?
mhm,
It isn't until that point where you could really comprehend what you're reading.
mhm,
And so
mhm.
it's like they just don't get it, and so then they start talking and it tunes everybody out. You bring in a cook from working at whatever McDonald's or at any restaurant that you choose, and you try to listen to this
La
person.
familia.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And so when I communicate with them, at least they're getting it. It was like we could use ordinary terms, or if I have to introduce a complex term, I'm gonna define it with ordinary language. If I'm going to say there's a difference between being and existence, I'm going to at least use ordinary language to explain that distinction, because in English, we don't have two words for it. And so what do we mean? Maybe I use an example of numbers. So I say to a cook at, I think, where was I working at? Was that at that chain Italian restaurant? I can't remember, the Olive Garden, right? So I was sitting there, and so he was doing the pasta, and he just was like, "Oh, you just went from grad school?" I was like, "Yeah." And so we were talking about, I was like, "Yeah," and so we talked about God. And so I said, wait, but there's a distinction there. So I just, with ordinary language, like, yes, there's being and there's existence. So what's existence? Something you could see, like this pasta in front of you, or this count, or whatever. These things exist. So then I told him, do you think that number 2 is real? He was like, well, yeah. Okay, well, the number 2 has no corporeal reality. It isn't as if the number 2 lives in the woods, who eats sheep and is purple and is 10 feet tall. The number 2 doesn't have this, existing qualities, but you believe it is real because it represents something.
Reality.
Yeah, it represents something. And so many times we even when I introduce complex ideas, I try to explain it to them with ordinary language in which they can relate to. And when you talk to these academics, it's like, it's all jargon. They just want to seem smart. And it's like, fuck you.
Yes.
So just stop trying to be smart and just be smart. You don't need all these jargons to be smart. You should be able to express the most complex idea in ordinary language, because that displays your actual comprehension of these ideas. If you're unable to do that, you're just a rote memorization monkey. And I could go to my fucking dog for that. I could ask him to bark when I say 2 + 2 = 4. And so, yeah, I have a contempt for many academics.
There's a thought that just occurred in my head.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure of the practicality or the feasibility or anything else, but it sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Not for today, but the idea in which, so like, I keep having this idea in my head of something I would like to do, which is to take the masters of the philosophical West,
yeah,
and put them into terms that are understandable for the common layman.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think a lot of laymen could understand,
Yeah.
The basics of philosophy if it were actually phrased in such a way as they could understand. Right?
Mhm.
And the problem is that most philosophers have fucking forgotten what Plato told them.
Yes,
Which
yeah.
is that a philosopher is more than just a mind in a meat suit.
Yes,
Right?
yeah.
Like, you have to be attached to reality, which is why
Yeah.
Plato, which, his name was actually a title because he was a wrestler.
Yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
said that all philosophers should be wrestlers, right?
Yeah.
Right. And the whole reason for that was that, like, bitch, your ideas need to be grounded in reality.
Yes, yeah.
Right. And so, like, I keep having this idea where it's like, and I kind of want to do it with my daughter, but I'm not sure how I'd go about doing it, because she thinks she's smart.
Yeah.
She has the capacity for intelligence. She just refuses to think.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
I do. Yeah, yeah.
I
had many students that way.
Like, yeah. So it's like, I want to take, it doesn't have to be me. I want the concepts of philosophy that built the West to be interpreted for the layman.
Yeah.
So it's not just this esoteric language. So that, like, maybe it's like you read a chapter so they can listen to the chapter.
Yeah.
And then you actually discuss what the fuck that means in real terms.
Yes, yeah.
Right? Which could, realistically, you could take most chapters and, like, if you are a ruthless efficiency engineer, you could really chop that shit down to, like, a paragraph or 3.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
So it's like, and then you have a discussion about that so that they can understand the concept. The pleb could understand the concept as relates to reality itself, right?
Yes,
and it's
yeah.
Like, I feel as though, like, that's a piece that's missing, because everyone thinks that philosophy is like this high, grand, ideal thing, and it's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
no, philosophy philosophy is the search for truth,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And in truth, though abstract, is reality.
Yes.
And the
Fundamentally.
people who
Yep.
live most in reality
Mhm.
are the plebs.
Yes. Yeah.
They're the ones who actually exist within reality most concretely.
Yeah.
And so if you could explain philosophy to them in a way that they could understand, not all, obviously, but
Yeah.
if you could explain it in vernacular that was understandable to the pleb, then that would be far more beneficial, and it might be a way to begin to revive the traditions of the West, right?
Yeah.
Because then you're beginning to fortify the foundation upon which the West is built. Because there's nothing right now that
Hmm.
actually fortifies it. Nothing.
Yeah.
Like people have no concept of what of what truth means, of what goodness, of what beauty, of what
Right. Yeah.
universality. Like they don't know what these things mean in any
Yes.
sense. And the only way in which you can begin to approach those ideas is through going to college. And we've already both agreed that college is
Yeah.
effectively a waste of time for like 90% of people.
And you have to be lucky
So
to
it's like,
find a professor that actually is going to teach you right. Like you could go to a
right.
university and they're all teaching the bullshit. And it's like, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
just spend
they're all
money to
just
learn
teaching rote
bullshit.
memorization
Yep.
and
Yeah.
yeah. And so it's like, we live in the beauty of this age is
Hmm.
the democratization of the ability to be able to output information.
Yes, I
Right.
agree with you. Yeah.
And that's one of the things I struggle with is
Mhm.
it's like I feel as though we need a redneck Aristotle.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, we really need that
Hmm.
because people there are definitely a lot of people who, like yourself,
Hmm.
would be unable to approach Catholicism without an understanding of truth.
Yes. Yeah.
But they don't necessarily have an academic background
Hmm.
that would enable them to do so.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do you reach that? But what a lot of them have in common is a love of history. And so
Yeah.
if you could bring history to them in a way that was approachable with language that was accessible,
Yeah.
then you might be able to get them to buy into, Plato and Aristotle are basically the beginning
Hmm.
of Catholic theocracy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
at least Western thought.
Yeah. For Western thought, yeah,
Like
that developed later on within Christendom. Yeah. I mean, essentially,
yeah.
it becomes a lot of the bedrock, at least for the natural theology aspect of it, is that you do use these
Mm-hmm.
people as well as Parmenides, Heraclitus. I mean, their debate essentially is like the debate that sprung up Plato's and Aristotle's solutions to their discussions. But yeah, without them, we wouldn't have much of the natural theology that we developed in the world, and that's why in many, I think it was in Greece as well as I can't remember. It could be where Istanbul is now, but there's some churches that have both Aristotle and Socrates as prophets, right? Like they'll have like stained glass windows with a halo around their head and everything. And it's because they
Okay.
recognize these two, although did not know Christ and did not know all those things, through natural reason came to discover God in the most that they can given their situation. And so they're viewed at
Right.
least as prophetic. Yeah.
That's exactly how I viewed them. It was like,
Yes.
okay, yeah, they're BC, they're before Christ.
Hmm.
However, if they would have known of Christ, they absolutely would have accepted Christ.
Yes. Yeah.
Because the thing that they didn't know, the thing that didn't exist in their time was the concept of sacrificial love.
Yes.
That was
That
the
is the
one
thing.
piece
Yep.
that was really, really missing. And if they would have known that and understood that,
Yeah.
they would have been there.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. or at least that's my impression, right?
And
I don't
that's
actually know the
many
source,
that's many
right?
people's impressions. I mean, if you look throughout the entire Western history, that is what most of these thinkers believed. Is because that really is the
Yeah,
missing cog. Is the one truth that the reality of Christ. You know, the fact that Christ is the revelation of God Himself in human form, was his sacrifice. And the one thing that he contributed, I shouldn't say contributed, but the one thing that he has shown the world that you couldn't gain from natural reason is that divine justice is mercy, that divine justice is sacrifice of the self. That is the thing
here's
that, yeah.
here's a crazy thought I just had.
Yeah.
For a God that's out that time, is the reason that He chose the time to be
Yeah.
when He did
Mm-hmm.
is because that's when Aristotle and Socrates
Yep.
had begun to develop thought processes, and they didn't have the final piece they needed.
Yeah.
Reason
Yep.
had gone as far as they had,
Yep.
and humanity needed that last little
Yeah.
piece that was sacrificial love.
Yeah.
And that's why He chose that time. That's why He chose that
Yep.
place. God damn.
And you know what tradition, what the Catholic tradition calls that? They call it the fullness of time. Exactly what you described is called the fullness of time, because that was the time where it was supposed to happen. That was the time, because without that, the world would not have been unified within Christ. The reason why the world became unified beyond the Jews was because of the Greeks, was because of this time period that exposed truth through natural reason, that Christ came as as basically the fulfillment of all these truths that's already been discovered. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's no sense. It's logical and reasonable.
Yep. Yeah.
The time in which the new covenant would come is the time period in which people are people broadly
Yeah.
are at a point of knowledge, understanding, and reason in which they can understand
Yeah.
what love and sacrifice actually is.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you're still stuck in your basest instincts, then
Yep.
they're just gonna make a fucking golden
Yeah.
calf. Like
I know. Yeah. Yeah. And then when you
Yeah.
see Socrates literally die for the truth, like this is what Socrates did. I mean,
Yes.
he was convicted of a crime.
He took the hemlock.
And he took the hemlock. He died because he would never, ever deny that which is true. He would never deny God. It's beautiful. It's beautiful when you see that. It's like, wow, that is something just magnificent. The bravery, that everything that he resembled, I think, is it could not have happened in a better time. That is when the fullness of time for the revelation that is Christ was supposed to happen. Yeah.
You know what's funny is I wonder if this is a indication that I'm smart because I was able to decipher the concept of fullness of time without having heard of it.
Of course, I think it is.
or
Yeah.
if it's just another example of that which is true. It's simplified.
I think it's both.
Right? Like
I think it is that which is true, but one needs to be open to and have the ability to understand the truth to rationalize it. And yeah, I think it's an example of it. Yeah,
I'm just a dumb mechanic, man.
You're not just a dumb mechanic. If you're able to articulate the fullness of time without ever hearing of that, that's not just a dumb mechanic. That's somebody that can piece together reality in a very quick way.
When you say the words, I know that I've heard of the words, but I don't know what it means.
Of course, yeah. And it was this time period because you simply understand history, you see what these people were able to get to through natural reason, and you see that Christ as being, the logos of reality, as Christ as being, the what was it called? the revelation that is God. Yes, he came in a time period in which truth was being uncovered. Someone like Socrates literally sacrificed his life for the truth, and then it is unveiled within the life of Christ as as love being sacrificial. And it really is the missing piece. Is that once that missing piece comes in there, the entire scholastic world, the entire Catholic world, the entire Christendom develops because of that missing piece of the puzzle. It's like they understood it. They understood what it means. They understood what it means to be alive. They understood what it means to love. They understood what it means to die. And everything falls from that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, there are many tragedies in the common era. However, I think the greatest tragedy is that mothers and fathers don't understand that love is sacrifice.
Yeah.
And so mothers are unwilling to sacrifice their career to their children.
Yeah. Many times they just kill their children for their career.
Or even if they don't kill their children for their career. Yeah. They kill their relationship.
Yes.
Their career.
In some way, they sacrifice their own children for their career, whether it is like actually killing them or sacrificing any beauty and truth that they could share with them and the experience they could have with them, to the point they just send them to like daycare, and then they're raised through that, and then they never really connect with them.
I'll be honest. It's been a struggle with my wife.
Yeah.
It's like, look, I know that you want to go to work, and I know that you want to sit there and contribute monetarily because you feel like this is fucking important.
Yeah.
But it's not, because fuck you making money. That doesn't matter. I don't know, man. Like, which man has ever looked at a woman and gone, ooh, she makes money?
Yeah, I know.
None, ever. That's not how we look at women, right? We look at women because they're fertile and beautiful. That's why we look at women.
And a man sacrifices himself in the labor. My dad worked about 14 to 16 hours a day until he died at 69 years old. That, and my mom didn't have to contribute.
Fertile, beautiful, and kind.
Yes.
Those are the only things we fucking care about.
Yes, That's it is. Yep.
I don't give a shit about your degrees.
Nothing.
I don't care if you're smart or not.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
All I care about is, are you fertile? Are you pretty? And are you kind?
Yes. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, oh, why is it I can't find any men at 32 years old? Bitch, it's because you're 32 years old.
The second part, the fertility is going away at that point.
Remember that part where I said men care about legacy?
Yes, they do.
Children
yes.
are part of that shit.
Yep.
Like a big part.
Yep. And the one thing that no matter which race you are, the one thing that every race of man can acknowledge in terms of objective beauty is when it comes to women. Is that no, we want a beautiful woman. Yes. Because like if you ever struggle with poetry or with anything in comprehension, it's like the one thing that we all share is that we all appreciate beautiful women. We all do.
I get that, but I would think that like what our
conception, fundamentally mathematical, is always hourglass. Even if we like bigger,
34,
yes,
baby.
Even if we like bigger women or thinner women, what we do want is that shape. We want that mathematical ratio, regardless of its size. And men are not picky that way. It's like women are much more ruthless with each other's looks than men are. Men are like, well, I don't care if you're like 20 pounds or 30 pounds overweight. Do you got a nice ass and tits? And they're like, we're good to go. And that is our experience every time we see women, is that we acknowledge beauty for its own sake when it comes to women. We may not share in terms of music or with paintings or whatever. But the one thing that every man always shares, and we could recognize whether you're from Africa, whether you're from Northern Europe or United States or South America, is that we appreciate the beauty of women for its own sake. and and it's just something that we can truly find the glory of God really through their physical form.
Oh man, I love being beautiful.
I know, yes,
And you know what's amazing to me
yeah,
is how God has created us.
yeah,
In that, once you've been married to a woman
hmm
and you've spent time with her, you don't actually see the woman how she appears.
yes, yeah,
Like like I've been married to my wife for 13 years.
yeah,
I don't see my wife as she appears today. I see her still as that woman that I married
mm.
13 years ago.
Yes, yeah,
Like she is forever my
forever in
beautiful
that,
bride that
yes,
I
yeah,
married. And like intellectually, I know that she's not, that then felt,
of course, right,
soldier
yeah,
that I married years and years ago. But
yeah,
it's like, but what? Like I don't see the four kids and the stretch marks or whatever.
yeah,
I don't like I don't see them when I've got
yeah,
my hands over her body. I don't feel them.
yes, yeah,
I I I still experience the sensation with my 23-year-old bride. Like
yes,
that's what
yeah,
I actually experienced with her. How
yeah.
amazing is
And I think, yeah, men in general,
that?
they all do. I mean, that is what we do. Is because we recognize that beautiful. We recognize the beauty for its own sake, and it's one of the things that I think we all could always comprehend with one another. It's like we get that.
But I don't think that happens with mistresses.
Yeah.
I think that only happens with the bride, the one that you lay with every night, like the one that you have that
Mm,
shared experience with over time.
yeah.
You have that sacrifice and
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
with. I don't think that
Yeah.
you
I wouldn't
like
know. Like
because
I would have to. I would have
if it's
to.
my girlfriend and she gets
Yeah.
fat,
Yeah.
like fuck, I'll go get another girlfriend.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like
Well, because like if like I don't know how the Mohammedans feel with like their with their more like two or three wives or whatever. They feel the same way. It seems like they kind of do though. It seems like they kind of share that same relationship with all of them. But I'm not. I can't speak for them. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
but
I
I
dealt with them quite a bit, and when I dealt with them, it was much the same, but it was also like they had their main,
right.
and
Yes.
then
Yeah.
they had their, so it was kind of like a mistress um in application but not in name, where it's like
Yeah.
um
Because
you
they
have you have a responsibility to
yeah.
this person. She is your wife.
Yeah.
However, there
Because
is a
yeah.
hierarchy.
Because
It was clear
I
delineated.
agree. I do think there's always a hierarchy, but I do think the one feature that would be similar, whether it's a mistress, a girlfriend, or a wife, is really children. I think there's a
Mm.
different connection you have with a female once they bear your children, that their beauty is more manifest by being a mother than they were when they were merely just girlfriends or where they were merely just lovers or whatever you want to call them. I do think that the difference really is the children, and I think that beauty can never really be like simply eradicated from them when once they do that. And it seems like except for like the high divorce rate and everything, but the women who actually stay with their men, it seems similar with the women with their men. Is that once the man is the father of their children, they do view them differently. They're not just you know the dick in which they want to fuck. I think they become something much more beautiful for them as well.
Yeah, it definitely could be. I
Yeah.
don't know. I haven't been a girl in a very long time,
Yes,
so I don't know
yeah.
how girls
Right, yeah.
interact.
But even if
You know,
even if it isn't for the
they're
girls,
insane at the best of
yes,
times.
yeah. But yeah, there's just something different, and I really do think that's the distinction that you find with a lot of these like contemporary weird sexual behaviors
Well,
that you find with
it's a
people.
connection. It's a
It's
connection.
like
It's
the
permanent.
it is, but like the contemporary, what do they call them? Polycules relationship is fundamentally different than like a Jewish or Mohammedan or African um, polygamous relationship. I think one of them has a separate covenant with each female in which they produce children and they find them manifestly beautiful through them, as opposed to the contemporary polycule is all about sexuality. It's not really about the production of children. It's not really
Mm.
about the commitment and responsibility towards them. It's just about what they can do for you. And whenever I think people try to confuse those two, it's like you can't really relate this older tradition that you saw in most civilizations, because Far East had the same thing, the Mohammedans had the same things, the Jewish people had the same thing, where they had either concubines with or multiple wives. They all
The Europeans did too. It
and the
was just,
Europeans
I
did
mean,
too,
well,
right?
and to be fair,
They did,
it was the
yes.
same principle in which only wealthy people had multiple wives.
Of
But
course, right? Yeah, the Europeans did too.
yeah,
And that's vastly different than I think the contemporary polyamorous relationship, where it's not really based on commitment and it's not really based on children. It's all just based on this weird perverted sexuality. Like it's hard for me to simply look at a Mohammedan household and simply say you're just perverted intrinsically. I would say you're maybe could be perverted accidentally, meaning that there ought to be certain boundaries in which you have, but to simply say that is the same as these like dog wearing queer couples, like no, they're
no,
different. There's
no.
something different. Like
Okay.
I met these two people from Kenya. They both were Catholic, and
Mm,
they both had was it, I think one had three wives and the other had two wives, and because in that
mm,
region the bishop allowed it because of the high Mohammedan population, and so on, so on and so forth, it was listed within them. But he had, I think, 15 children, and
mm.
it's like he,
That's glorious.
yes, and it
That's
was,
so beautiful.
it's beautiful and was different. And then you see like these weird,
You know what's crazy?
yeah,
You know what's crazy is like I'm seen as a avid uh I don't know, demographic replacer.
yes, yeah, yeah.
Because I have four children,
Yeah,
and it's like, and even then, like, I have four children, but one is a stepchild and one
right, yeah,
is
yeah,
my niece who I'm
yeah,
raising,
yeah,
right? But
but
like
still, yeah,
all,
four children, yeah,
but yeah, but still I have four children because like biology matters to an extent, but like if you spend 18 years or
yes, raising,
10 years
even,
under my
yes,
house
yeah,
and following my rules, you're gonna come out very much
yeah,
understanding reality in the way that I do, whether
yes,
you
yeah,
like it or not,
yeah, yeah,
because you're going to be children are a manifestation of their parents' reality.
yes, yeah, yeah, definitely. And I really do
Yeah,
think that production of children is what makes it manifestly different. It is what brings beauty and goodness really within those households, and why I think many of these like
well,
married non-children couples that exist right now is honestly manifestly worse than any Mohammedan polygamous relationship. It's like I like
I
because
agree.
yeah, at least they're
I
producing
agree.
children. That they're still
Yeah,
unified within nature and reality in terms of what marriage is supposed to be. But you're just going to be married to somebody for 10, 15 years and never produce a child. There's something fundamentally more perverted about that relationship than I think any of these other ones in the
I
past.
I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I think that like a marriage wherein the man has a mistress and has children with the
Hmm.
mistress is still more honest
I agree.
than a childless marriage.
Yep. Yeah.
Like
I 100% agree.
because
Yeah.
like it the we are supposed to multiply.
Yeah.
That is our fucking mission,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And so like the concept, the concept that there are too many people is
It's
just evil
stupid,
on its
right?
face.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Just
untrue.
just
Yeah.
plain anti-human and untrue to boot. But
Yeah.
just like from a purely moralistic standpoint, it's fucking evil.
Yeah.
From a utilitarian standpoint, it's the dumbest shit ever.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
every problem that you think that humanity might face, the way that we solve those problems is through engineering solutions.
Yeah.
How do we discover and create the people that are going to engineer those solutions? By having a shit ton of babies. That's how.
Yeah.
Right. And the what I come back to with both my children and with the my extended children that are at the school is I have proffered to them the ice age.
Yeah.
It's real. It happened. Okay. So the Earth's temperature changed and we had an ice age. How many internal combustion engines do you think were involved in the ice age occurring?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm using science against science, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the second thing I go is in 1910, do you know what the greatest problem threatening New York City was? Plague. Do you know why plague was the greatest problem threatening New York City? Horse dung. And the plague and the flies and everything came with horse dung.
Yeah.
Do you know how they solved that problem? Engineering. Henry Ford created the automobile. So horses weren't required anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? We created a solution that solved the problem.
Yeah.
And because horses weren't required to transport goods anymore, horse dung no longer became a problem.
Yes. Yeah.
Bam, problem solved.
There it is. Yeah.
Right. And so it's like we just and it wasn't intentional necessarily. It was incidental. However, we solved the problem because we were just looking for efficiency and to try to create a better future, right?
Right.
And so it's like if the superpower of humans is solving problems.
Yeah.
And so if you get 10 billion humans and they're all motivated to try to solve a problem, we will fucking solve a problem.
Yeah.
Now, here's the hard part. Convincing them that a problem is actually a problem we're solving.
Yeah.
That's where it gets difficult, because the problem for India and Asia Minor and Asia Major isn't global warming. It's not a fucking problem for them.
Yeah.
Their problem is making sure they have electricity so that they don't starve or die from dysentery or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's their problem. Okay. Well, let's create some nuclear power plants and coal plants and whatever.
Yeah.
Let's pull you out of the third world. Fine.
Yeah.
No problem. Okay. Well, once we pulled them out of the third world and now they're first world nations, once a nation gets to about $15,000 to $20,000 per year GDP per family, or I don't know, whatever fucking measurement it is.
Yeah.
It's not GDP. It's like $15,000 to $20,000 annually per family on average. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Then they're no longer so poor that they're willing to burn everything just to stay warm.
Right. Yeah.
Now they can actually begin to think about the world their children will inhabit.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because when your poverty is so severe that you're just trying to make sure that you have food on the table, you do not give a fuck how you get food on the table.
Yes. Yeah.
When you surpass that level and you get to a point where you're not just worried about making sure that your children are going to starve, then you can begin to worry about the world your children will inherit.
Yes, yeah.
Right? But then there comes the flip side, which says poverty is real and it's never going away, ever. Right? And so it's like, how do you solve this existential problem that's never going away? Right? And quite frankly, do you think an all-powerful God is going to allow us to destroy his creation?
Yeah.
Totally, fully, and completely.
Yeah.
I don't.
I think it's a bit hubris to think that man can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, especially if you ever look at it and you realize that like one volcano puts out more CO2 emissions than all of the internal combustion engines of the world combined.
It's just, it gets ridiculous.
We don't look at science.
No,
we don't actually look at science.
Yeah. Oh, man.
It's fucking pure madness, man.
Yeah.
It's and what's so irritating, and that these last 2 years have shown us, is that like people are so willing to like call upon the gods of science, but they don't actually have any understanding, reason, logic.
Yes, yeah.
And so they're unable to comprehend this science.
Yeah.
In actuality.
And they just tell you that you have to just believe what the scientists say. That's all. That's all they ever say.
Right.
Leave it to professionals.
Yeah,
You're a scientist. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a call upon the priest class.
Yes. Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
But their priests suck.
Yes. Pretty much. Yeah. Oh man. All right, man.
Here's a question for you.
Okay. This will be the last question, and then we end.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you. Because I'm unaware of a lot of the politics of the Catholic Church. I have heard substantially that the Latin Mass, EQN, I think it's called, or something. I don't know.
The Tridentine, but yeah.
The Latin Mass is where there's a lot of interest from younger people who are getting involved.
Yes, yeah.
They're interested in the hierarchy. They're interested in tradition.
Yeah.
Et cetera. And so it's like, how would one, as a layperson, go about trying to get TQN in your area? In my example, where we don't have a priest yet.
that would be really tough, because most of them have to be trained in it, and really the only order that is actively training their priests in order for them to even be part of the order is the Dominican Rite. And so most of the ones that you see around the world is really from the Dominican Rite. And so they're the order of priests. And so you probably could look up what's the closest one to where you guys are, to kind of just so you could experience it. And then that's really where you get it going, because they have the largest enrollment of any order, I believe, right now is the Dominicans, because of that. So even the young people who are studying to priests want to do the Tridentine Mass. And so there is this large population of younger people that are getting involved, and they are around most of the country right now. I don't know in your region how far one would be, but they would
45 minutes.
Yeah, they would be the most knowledgeable in terms of how to get into your town, because a lot of times just asking them would be like, okay, well then they might talk to the archdiocese, and from the archdiocese they would say maybe they could start out with like twice a month, in which they go out to a certain parish out there which they could say that mass, and then it just builds from that point. And that's really what it is. A lot of times it's just, like I said in the beginning, one of the greatest virtues I think with the Anglo-Saxons is patience. A lot of it is patience. It's incremental. It might start out once a month. It might start out twice a month, but it starts building that sense of community. It starts building that interest for people to do, and especially
Right.
with a country like the U.S. because, like the church, the beautiful thing about the church is that it could function anywhere. Like it could function in the American system, it could function in a European system, it could function in a communist system. It doesn't matter. The church transcends any political system. And so the fact that we live in the US, it's going to function in the way the Americans function. And the way Americanism function is a lot of lay people does a lot of the footwork. It just unfortunately it's just the way that it is. And so you engaging with them, requesting it, getting as many people to request it as possible, they could find one of the priests every week maybe or every month to come out there, say the mass, and then the more larger the community, the more that they have the authority to go to the bishops and say, hey, we have 100 people over in this community that want the Tridentine Mass. Can we have some of our brethrens go over to this community to say the mass every week? And that's really the best way to start it. So they're very a tight knit community. Um, they're good. Yeah, they're just they're all very well read. In order for you to get like the Dominican to be part of the Dominican Rite, they require you to get to travel and do a lot of academic reading. So they're all super intelligent people. You can't. It's hard to get into, but at the same time, they are probably one of the most down to earth and charitable people that you ever will meet. I have not met one Dominican priest who was like a pretentious asshole that wouldn't talk to just ordinary people. They are academics. That's just it's part of their order. They have to learn Aquinas. They have to learn all these things, but simultaneously, what they focus on is the Rosary and what is that, homilies, and so they,
So they focus on the real shit.
yes, basically they learn all these
They
academic
don't
things
focus.
for those
They,
reasons.
they
Yeah.
learn they learn the abstract so they can focus on the real.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
It's
exactly how engineering is supposed to be accomplished.
yes. Yep. And that's how these people are. They're fantastic.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's amazing. Well, I definitely would like to say that in closing this up with you,
Yeah.
I would like to get back with you at some point. This time, okay.
Yeah.
Right? I would like to get back with you at some point to talk about how laymen can have an effect upon the church politic locally,
Yeah.
right? And how they can begin to build orders and whatnot,
Yeah.
so that I can learn how to do that myself, right?
Yeah.
And if that can be extrapolated to others, even better, right? But because I feel that that's important.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
it's going to be just like all politics is local, all churches are local.
Mm-hmm.
And my personal impression is that there's a storm coming.
Yeah.
I don't know what the storm is. I don't know if it's like the fall of Rome. I don't know if it's fucking Revelation and the end times are coming. I have no fucking clue. I don't read history. No, I can't read the future. Right?
Yeah.
I read history a little bit, but I don't know what the future holds. But I do. I get the impression it's not just me, that there are many people who have this feeling as though we are currently living in a time of historical importance.
Yeah.
And that we need to batten down the hatches because hard times are coming.
Yes.
And so it's like, okay, like we see that. So what do we do? Right. And so, my pleb ass says, what are some plans of action? What are some things that can be accomplished? For me personally, and for other plebs,
Yeah.
out, among and abroad, in terms of trying to create order in the chaos that is coming.
Yeah.
and I had no, my concept was that like I'm joining a hierarchy, and so I need to go through the bishops. I need to
Yeah.
go through the fathers, and the fathers go through the bishop, and like I don't know how
Hmm.
I go about trying to create a sense of order.
Hmm.
Maybe they see it, maybe they don't. Like I'm not trying to judge anybody else. It's just like
Right. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
really,
And I think
really big thing.
your instincts are accurate. I mean, it ultimately has to go down the hierarchy, but the beautiful thing is that you're able to communicate with them, and
Mm,
they can advocate for you, and that's the important part. Is that, you know, without their support, you then become in opposition to the church, and then you become a protester. You become a Protestant, and so the main
yeah,
thing is that
I don't want to protest.
yes, the main thing is
My
always
job is
working with them.
to
Yeah.
listen and yeah. My job is to obey.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
My entire purpose is to assist the church
Yeah.
to try to be a member of Christ's army who is spreading his mission on the earth.
Yeah.
But I'm not a general. I'm not a fucking commander.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't run shit.
Yes. Yeah.
I just want to try. For me personally,
Yeah.
I want to try to help mentor young men who have never been taught what the fuck it means to be a man.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times
That's what I want to do.
is having a priest hear you out on things like retreats. I think that's always the best place to start. It's a place
Yeah.
where they could all agree. They could even themselves partake in, but they could promote, and then from there you could start building that kind of trust with the young people as well, with the priest, and then ultimately the bishop. Because when they
Yeah.
hear stuff like that, you know, regardless of many of the politics and maybe complaints you can hear from some people, when the bishops really do hear that there's an active member who is doing things that are spiritually engaging for people, they're truly happy, and they're
Of
appreciative,
course.
and they just want to
Of
be a
course.
part. They just want to be a part of it, and they want to give their input on it. And a lot of times, just listening. So, okay, what do you think will be proper for this to be a proper Catholic order, or proper Catholic retreat? And then they will start giving their input. And yeah, and I think it just becomes a very beautiful and like I said, even the small community here in Wasilla is able to do it. It's really not that even big at all, and a lot of it just started with that.
Well,
People like hiking, people
that's
like
the thing.
camping.
That's the thing that people don't understand about politics
Hmm.
in general, whether it's
Yeah,
church or secular.
yeah,
It is how few people it takes to actually begin to change things.
yes, yeah,
And the fact that you can become a valuable member of your local community who is listened to by people with a lot of power if you just fucking show up.
yes, yeah,
That's all it takes.
yeah,
Is just showing up. Like if you just show up and give a shit,
yes, yeah,
then people will begin to listen to you, because if only 6 people show up to the fucking meeting, and 6 people can be a lot depending on where
yeah.
you're at. But if 6 people show up to the meeting and you're one of the 6,
Hmm.
guess what? You've got like 15% of the vote by
Yes, yeah,
itself. And if you know how to talk,
yeah,
then you can convince 3 out of the 6 easily, and now you've
yeah,
got a majority.
yep,
Like it's so fucking easy, but people are so god blessed lazy
yes, yeah,
that they refuse to get involved because they
yeah,
think it's so hard,
hmm,
because they just refuse to embrace the suck.
yes, yeah,
It boggles the mind.
yeah.
Like
I think that's one thing that
as
that politics and sales share is a lot of times is just your ability to put yourself out there, and and your just ability to be embarrassed. It's like you just talk, you put it out there. The worst thing that's going to happen is that people are going to say no, and
yeah,
Yeah, and so I've noticed I've like being in both of the worlds so far in my life is like being in sales and then working for the state and being in politics is like a lot of it is just it's pretty much the same skill. It is, can you speak to
Yeah.
people? Can you put yourself out there? Can you reduce it down to terms that people can understand? And can you show them that this is worth their time, where this is worth their while? And yeah,
I'm not saying that it was me solely, but I put it out there on Twitter, and maybe I'll do it later.
yeah,
But there was a handwritten note
mm,
that I put on a piece of blank paper,
yeah,
which when I was in Texas, which said the Texas National Guard will not be deployed overseas without a declaration of war from the United States Congress.
mm,
That thing that got put in at the precinct level then went to the county, and I was able to argue it at the county, and it got approved and passed, and then it went from the county on to the state, and it got played with, manipulated at the state
yeah,
level, and then it got put through. It passed at the state level of Texas, which is fucking
wow,
huge.
yeah,
Right? The state Texas GOP approved, saying that we as the state of Texas do not want our Texas National Guard to be deployed overseas without a declaration of war from the United States Congress.
yeah,
That started with a handwritten note.
yes, yeah,
Now, maybe, just maybe, other people submitted something similar in other districts. Like, I'm not trying to claim sole credit for this.
right, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't care.
But you definitely contributed to it, yeah.
But the point is, I contributed.
Yeah.
At the very least, I contributed with just a handwritten note in cursive on a blank piece of paper.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, it takes so very little.
It does, yeah.
Just to get the fucking ball started.
Yeah.
Because so few people give a shit
Yeah.
that it doesn't take much.
Yeah.
If you just put forth a slight amount of effort. And I bet it's the same way in the Catholic Church as a whole.
Yeah.
There are so few people who put forth effort that you're willing to put forth a slight amount of effort, as I have done.
Yeah.
I put forth a slight amount of effort, and now the father who comes and does
Mass
homilies and preaches mass, who does mass, every other week, he knows my name.
Yep. Yeah.
He knows my name.
That's all it really takes.
He may not know the name of 90% of the people that are in that parish.
Yeah.
But he knows my name.
Yeah.
Because I went up to go and talk to him about things that I thought were important, like the order for 16 to 26-year-olds. And I'm asking him how we can make this happen, because I think it's fucking important.
Yeah.
Not for me. I'm 38 years old.
Right. Yeah. But for them,
my daughter's 14. She's not yet in that age range. But I think it's important for the congregation as a whole. Yeah. Because our fucking young parents need to have a good, solid foundation in Catholicism if they're going to be able to impart in their children well and be able to be good parents. Yeah. And so it's like, I'm talking to him, even though he's not like the father and everything else, but it's like, look, I don't know. I'm an RCIA. I'm just trying to figure shit out. But can you help me to figure out how I can be a contributing member of our parish? Because I think our parish matters. Yeah, yeah. And I'm a retard. I'm a pleb. I'm a mechanic. If I can do it, so can you. Yeah. That's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. Yeah. Right? Like, I'm not fucking special. You can do it too. Yeah. And the continuation of our society is dependent upon men who go forth and attempt to push back the abyss through order. Order is required. Yes, yeah. Beautiful. Which is going to take sacrifice. Yeah. Awesome. I think that's a good place to leave it at, man. I love love you, man.
Yeah, love you too,
I
man.
really enjoy listening to your episodes.
Yeah, this is awesome. All right, man.
Hopefully we get a chance to talk some more.
Yeah, have a good evening.
You as well.
Bye.
Go home to your wife and children.
Yes. Bye. Awesome, man. So that was awesome. I think that's going to be a really good episode.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I think people will enjoy it.
I don't care.
Yeah. All right, man.
What's funny is I was just having a conversation with you. I don't care about them.
Yeah.